Esports Racing League. For the first time in a couple of years, it's time to answer the age-old question: who is the best? Welcome back to the 2026 season, spring season of Esports Racing League. After a dramatic Final Four at Maastricht at Sim Formula Europe in January, it was Rafa ERA by EMM crowned as the Esports Racing League champions. But now, some fresh titles and some fresh faces as we begin another championship fight. Let's dive into all the action. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined alongside by Lewis McLeod as we get set to jump into Live for Speed, a sim that's probably older than some of the drivers on our grid, Lewis.
Yeah, I mean, this is when I first started in sim racing. This was when Live for Speed started to kind of phase out a little bit as everyone was moving on to other simulator platforms. And yet still, even here in 2026, a lot of drivers that are out there in the world of sim racing that have been in sim racing for 10, 15 years have very fond memories of Live for Speed, and for a lot of very good reasons. It drives really well, it races pretty well, it's always exciting, and it's something which, especially for the likes of you and me, Arjuna, might be a little bit odd and a bit different, maybe even a bit new for us.
I've never driven. You've had a couple of laps behind the wheel at the RaceSpot studio a couple of years ago, but yeah, venturing into the unknown. But for those joining us for the first time, Esports Racing League, about requiring our drivers to adapt at the end of the day, Lewis. Multiple different platforms, that's what we're going to be jumping between, but all in a fast and furious format. We're going to split our teams into 2 heat races. A maximum of 3 drivers go onto track, but only 2 will score points. 5 teams will move forward straight to the quarterfinals. The rest will struggle through a second chance race where we'll pick up 2 more teams and battle into what will be a slightly different final format this season.
Yeah, just 6 races across the night. That final format having 3 teams out in action with 3 drivers apiece, and then the top team in just a single race will be the ones that turn out to be victorious. And again, same as what we have a lot of the times when we have our 3 drivers, it's only the top 2 drivers in each given team that are scoring points in the race. So for some teams that have brought only 2 drivers for this event, well, they're still scoring the same as everyone else, so it should be all right for them.
And that includes some relatively big names in terms of those teams who will be hoping to stay out of the trouble to open up the season. 4 platforms to build the regular season before once more we will race in person on the last garage. Live for Speed followed up by Gran Turismo next, RaceRoom and iRacing. I know lots of people excited about RaceRoom, but when we look at the cars as well, Lewis, there's a lot more focus on tin tops, on sports cars this time around.
Yeah, obviously iRacing bringing out the Elantra. RaceRoom, we've got that Alpha at play, and I mean, look, I'm going to give it a bit of a shout. Yeah, you say a lot of people are excited about RaceRoom being in this. I've always maintained, I think it's one that we kind of sleep on a little bit. I think RaceRoom's a great platform. I've had the joy of kind of being a part of that community for a fair while. It is a great community and a great kind of sim. More close to maybe like a simcade rather than flat out sim like what you would get on iRacing, but it kind of works. It's really, really fun to race, and I think that's going to be very exciting. It's going to fit perfectly in with the platforms we've got this season. And again, seeing Live for Speed out there this season is great. Gran Turismo, great return as well from last season. I missed it last season, so I'm looking forward to giving it a go this one.
And with a car maybe a bit more raceable on Gran Turismo, a Nissan Silvia Spec R. So that builds us all then back into the Vickers Ache, the car that we competed in for our ERL Final Four in January. It's a custom car designed by our team behind the scenes at VCO on a platform that these drivers don't have the ability to practice day in and day out. Let's talk teams though, because a couple of teams renaming themselves, R8G changing over to that Vitality brand, but when we look at the list of the 17 teams that we have on display this time around, of course, I think all eyes on defending champions EMM Esports as they look to try and defend their championship.
And not only that, in today's event, this season they've picked up a new driver, certain Darren McCormack. Obviously, was part of Virtus Pro last season. It'll be himself, Jene Simoncic and Mikkel Schmiedel, who'll be racing this evening, which is a great and terrifying three-driver team. Vitality, obviously under the name of RHG last season, I think we can all kind of agree, a little bit disappointing. So they'll be looking to fight back as strong as they can. TC Esports, expecting them to go quite strong this season. Same with BS Competition, expecting some big things from those. And of course, Team Nitro, Williams F1 Team Gaming, expecting some very big things from them this season.
With 17 teams, what it does mean is that our heat's going to be split up in slightly uneven numbers. Will that play its part? We'll find out. Let's talk, though, about track, because while the teams all knew the car that they'd be racing in, the Radix P6, they weren't sure about the tracks and a brand new format, pick and ban. It all starts with the ban phase, and for those that performed well in the last season of the Esports Racing League, they had the chance to ban first. It was EMM banning West Hill that started proceedings off, but once we worked through the ban phase, 5 tracks off the board, a chance for the teams to then pick which tracks they did want to race at. And so as we worked through the picks, only 5 to pick from, but slowly the story started to say we were heading the way of South City Long. And this is going to be something, Lewis, that our teams will be thinking about all season long. Perform well through the season, you'll be a part of this pick and ban phase before every round of the championship.
Yeah, and obviously just being a part of it is the important bit. You get to have that little bit of control as to where we're racing, and I think that is really, really critical because, let's be honest, the champs there in EMM, they want to go racing at Rockingham. That is not where we'll be racing this evening. A very tight and technical street circuit. Here's a look at some of the drivers we'll be seeing out on the circuit tonight, and again, we've got a great list.
As we mentioned, some teams coming in with just 2 drivers, and that's what we're keeping an eye out for, Dominic Blyer and Nikitin Wisniewski. But EMM, Lewis has already pointed out, Darren McCormack now flying their flag alongside of Jene Simoncic, and Magic Mike, as his official social media handle goes by.
Yep.
TC Esports, got to keep an eye out for them. Vitality, this is a relatively strong opening heat.
Yeah, and of course, from this opening heat, 5 teams will progress straight through into the quarterfinals. 4 teams will go through into the second chance race. Of that, trying to pick 5, you would lean comfortably towards your EMMs, your TC Esports, Vitalities, and Williams. But that isn't always the story, is it? You know, especially around a circuit like this. This car is tricky to drive. We're watching them in practice. They are sliding this car around here quite a lot. And it's also really, really narrow, so the chance of them getting involved in an early carnage, pretty high.
It is Radical-esque is the way we are describing this car. It's a mod available for Live for Speed, which, although it is 20 plus years in age, continues to get updates even now. And so some of the modern updates include graphics and physics related changes. With qualifying now seeing just 30 seconds left to go. Look how close it is through the field. Just hundreds and thousands splitting the majority of the top 15.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a particularly a long course, about 90-odd seconds around. In that we do expect the gaps to be pretty close. They are pretty close up there. A few drivers may be slightly out of position, but drivers we expect to be right at the front. Mikkel Schmiedel, Marcel Chinchik up there. Darren McCormack inside the top 5. Thibaut Kazmon, Yuri Toman, Jene Simoncic, Nikitin Wisniewski. Those ones 11th through 14th. Jack Keith, I know he's got a little bit of experience on this platform, down in 16th. Few drivers a little bit out of position in I'm excited for this race. I think it's going to be very, very chaotic. Opening corners pretty quick down into into quite a tight second turn, which is really the first proper braking zone.
I'm looking at the teams qualified up front. Yes, Motorsports 1st and 4th, flying off the board, and their 3rd driver down in 8th as well. So they are in a very good spot. Vitality 2nd. 11th and 12th. There is our pole sitter. I never seen someone with the hood over the headphones locked in right now.
Look, either fully locked in or maybe the heating needs to be turned on. But one thing is for sure is that once you start racing and feeling the pressure of all these drivers on your shoulders behind you, Suddenly, everything gets a little bit more sweaty. It's Yes Motorsports, Guerra, who is the one who's on pole position that we're seeing here. Yes Motorsports jumping in for this season. So that's a great start to their campaign. Clearly a bit of LFS experience.
Chat message, by the way, that says his ego's already wider than the track isn't enough to glorify him. I think we're going to be in for a fun season with our chat, so do let us know who you're cheering for, what stories are happening. Now, what we are going to see is a couple of minutes to build into this race as the drivers all submit their setups to make sure that they're all running the same fixed setup through the field. And then we'll have a standing start, Lewis, on the run down to turn 1.
Yeah, and it is, to be fair, this is one of the ones where it puts a bit of a smile on my face, because it's very rare, Arjuna, that both you and I, we're relatively experienced in the sim racing scene. Very rare do we get to add a new simulator to our sim racing commentary portfolio. Now, obviously, hard to say new simulator on this one, but new to us in the commentary terms. But this is the joy of a series like this, because we added the last garage, so neither of us had commentated on that before properly, and now we're adding this one as well, ticking them off.
When are we adding Mario Kart? I've been saying
it needs to be in this. It needs to be in there. We need meme season at the end of the year.
To be fair, I think with when we get to the end of the season, which will only be July, so about halfway through the summer, maybe there's an opportunity to have Mushroom Campaign ERL. August and September before we get going for the fall season and potentially build to what I would assume is the plan to return to Sim Formula Europe. Let's quickly talk about what fun we had, Lewis, on site with an incredible community. It wasn't just our ERL group, but indeed lots of sim racing folk there as well.
Yeah, obviously Sim Formula, great event, really, really great. I've been trying to get to it for a couple of years now. Andy Mason, who's the guy who kind of brings that one, brought it into fruition. Great to meet all of them, meet the Sim Formula side of things, and us have our event there as well. It was really, really nice to be a part of it. A great sim racing community event. Not only the stuff at the event, but obviously outside of it as well. Obviously, we had a lovely meal that was a part of it. It was really nice to have a chat with everyone. We shan't talk about the post-event antics, but there were plenty. Let's just go with that. T-Bag, what are you going to say to me now?
How's your knee doing?
Yeah, no, it's pretty recovered. To be clear, it wasn't any alcohol inducement. I was with you and O'Leary and Karen Roger, and they both challenged me to a foot race which lasted one step, and then I slipped over. Right onto my knee. It really hurt, let me tell you.
Well, to be fair, we also had a failed attempt at playing golf, so
that is true.
It was an eventful trip, and we do need to talk about golf planning, by the way, for this summer and working our way through that. On board, just seeing a perspective of the track, and that's exactly what I was thinking. Quick, bumpy, and well, at least one thing we're not going to have to talk about today: track limits.
Yeah. There's walls that will keep you well within it, don't worry. That fast section, that's the start-finish straight. This is going through turn 4. That's the end of the first sector there, through the left-hander at 5. We've got a bit of a chicane here at 6 before a left-hander at 7. Continues to turn round to the left-hand side as we go round turn 8. Really tricky complex up next at 9 and 10. Both of those going to the right-hand side. So we continue our left turn deep onto the brakes, dropping down, flicking it through the right-hander, continuing just to turn right once more before we'll have this left turn out onto the longest straight part of the circuit, down towards a very tricky left-hand hairpin, and then that run onto the start-finish straight, which is what we have here. So it's going to be a very fast run down towards turn 2, that I know, Arjuna, and it is fairly wide, so there's plenty of space for us to go to, maybe 3, maybe 4 wide.
And these are nimble cars, so as the lights build, what are we in for as we start a new Esports Racing League season? One car off the line, and then backing up, so I think he got fooled, as did I. Ignore the initial cycle through the lights, we'll have a second cycle through the lights, and get going. But new season, we can all make mistakes, including me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We'll have to figure that one out. Race Control obviously hot on it, and they've all done their driver briefings and whatnot. But obviously we are we're in the learning phase. The race control and such, I know they've been well versed as to how to piece this one together. I'm very curious to how this race is going to unfold. I know it's going to be dramatic into that opening corner. We've got Yes Motorsports on pole position for the first time in ERL up there as well. We've got the champions pretty close in tow. It's going to be an exciting race. That's all I know.
Yeah, I jumped the gun. I was just too excited to get the season going. This is going to happen before every one of our races. By the way, Felix Van Delft has just messaged me with his idea for our Mushroom Cup. Mario Kart, Trackmania, and Dirt 3.
Oh, yes.
Let's go to start the Esports Racing League 2026 spring season. And it's Yes Motorsport that's going to lead us up in towards that fast opening corner. Already shuffling behind as we head on to the brakes. Marcel Chinchik to the inside, and contact behind as we work our way through turn 2. Oh, goodness.
Whoa, big crash. I think it was McCormack potentially getting into the rear end of someone there, going down into turn 2. Huge moment on the brakes and some big spins as well. Few teams now very far out of position. Guerre is the one who's had the whole shot from the race lead. Cody Nikola-Latkovsky, he's found his way up into 3rd position. So a solid drive at the moment from the 118 as Mikael Schmiedel with a bit of damage right in the middle of all of this. 13th position. Clearly he was the one that was involved in a little bit of that contact down in turn 2. You can see the damage on the front left of his car. This is back up to Don Blyer, who's feeling a bit of pressure from Latkovsky behind. I think what I'm seeing at the moment, look at those vitalities. Marcel Chinchik and Thibaut Kazmon, 4th and 5th. Remember, the top 2 cars for each team score points. They're in a great position right now.
They got very lucky, though, because Marcel Chinchik was almost right on the scene of the incident when they all drove into turn 2 and got away with that one. Dara McCormack not so lucky, as now more drama up towards the fast left-hander. It's Latkovsky that's gone wide and then makes contact with one of the TC Esports black and gold machines. Now 2 of them in front of him.
And for Latkovsky, it's kind of a bit of an odd one there. Obviously, not great for him. Tomas Ribeiro is not too far behind him. Watch out, by the way, for Ribeiro on RaceRoom later on in the season. He is the fastest driver on RaceRoom at the moment. That's going to be impressive. Great signing for the 0 Point Racing team. But they were in great position. Cody Nikola-Latkovsky in 11th and Tomas Ribeiro in 5th. Those 2 are teammates. Still would be scoring well to be one of the top 5 teams, which again is the most important bit right now to get into those quarterfinals.
And speaking of, Nikitin Wisniewski, who's qualified down in 14th, great job to move up into 6th. Only 2 of those Williams F1 Team Gaming Radix P6s in the field. Don Blyer in 2nd. They are doing enough to guarantee themselves a spot in the quarterfinals where their lack of numbers will start to be exposed just that little bit more. We'll continue to tick through the laps, but already a big gap up front, and I get the sneaking suspicion that our pole sitter is going to be the one to beat today, Lewis. That was a statement of a qualifying lap to open up the season.
Yeah, and for Yes Motorsports, they will be one of the top 5 at the moment. Obviously, with that top position at the moment from Guerre, but teammate in Lakakos is only down in 7th position, so they're definitely scoring pretty well. So what I'm seeing at the moment, Williams F1 Team Gaming scoring well. We've got Yes Motorsports scoring well. We've got Vitality scoring well, and Williams scoring well. Those would be the ones at the moment to move through. I am not 100% sure as to who the other one would be right now. I would have to do some looking. Might be TC Esports, actually, with 9th and 11th, and Jack Keithley and David Sobrero.
Make that 9th and 10th now that Latkovsky's been passed, and that's where my mind was going as well, in front of Yuri Toman. Alejandro Barreto squirrels through turn 1 in the Samantha Tan Racing 121. Bash off the wall for Yuri Toman. He's already banged up the front side of that Radix P6. Why not a little bit more? On the edge of the top 10, here's Latkovsky trying to fight his way back in front of David Sobrero, who's now got Jurnain Simincic in front.
Oh, but if I'm a 0 point, I wouldn't be taking any risks, as there he goes up on the 2 wheels before bringing it back down in 13th position. Mikael Schmieder was one of the ones to try and sneak through in all of that. Latkovsky just about keeps the point in the right direction. There's a spinner in the background. Who was that? It was Yuri Toman, one of the Vitality drivers. You can tell by the bright yellow dropping down the order. Here's a look at Cody Nikola-Latkovsky. Chaotic scenes here in the mid-pack, and even more chaotic scenes. What's happening?
He needs to stay out of trouble because his teammate is up there in the mix of the top 5. And last thing that he wants to do is cost his team that automatic spot in the quarterfinal, because we know just how crazy the LCQs will be. Thibaut Casabon's going to throw a lunge up the inside of Thomas Ribeiro. The two of them are fighting plenty, and it's bringing Nikodem Wisniewski back into the mix here.
Indeed, Thibaut Casabon going side by side at present with Thomas Ribeiro. The two of those across the line. It's the 0-point car, the black and yellow. Yes, from one side, they are very hard to tell different parts of them, but obviously Thibaut Casabon in the bright yellow Vitality car remains behind, stays in 5th position. At the moment, this is one of the ones. Use that experience of this kind of format of racing, which, Marcel Cinczyk, Thibaut Casabon, and Yuri Tomin should all be very well experienced with this style of format, this style of team racing, which has been so prevalent in sim racing over the last couple of years. For now, don't take any risks. Hang on to those positions. You'll be moving straight through into the quarterfinals, and I would also hammer that one back home to Nikodem Wisniewski behind, with Dominic Bly's position in 2nd. There is no need to take that risk.
This is where coordination, right, with the team managers and the engineers on the radio will be so important. Ensure the team all understands where they are placed right now as time continues to tick away. Now, these are 12-minute heat races, not 42 minutes as it shows on the top of your screen. Don't worry about that. Getting closer and closer, though, towards the end of this race.
We're getting told that 6 minutes remain in this race, so we have plenty of time. This is that final turn down at 12, which takes us back out to this incredibly long run along the start-finish stretch. It's kind of those zigzags, a little bit like what you'd get at maybe Baku or Vegas. A little bit wider than that, but still plenty of speed built up here before we drop down through the underpass, climbing back up, and then heavily onto the brakes at turn 2. Slightly into the barrier there for Nikodem Wisniewski. Car slightly sliding going into the 2nd corner, but Thibaut Casabon kind of... this group's kind of spread out a little bit, but I mean, it's certainly not spread out completely. No one's feeling particularly calm in this group, I'd imagine.
No. This is a track as well. You don't really get a chance to breathe outside of the brief back stretch, which is relatively straight. Front straight is not necessarily straight, and you've got that fast breathe into turn 1 that runs you back up to turn 2. A second heating coming after this, remember, for the 2nd grouping of teams, and 5 more of those teams will advance directly through to the quarterfinals. For some drivers, this may be their only outing on Live for Speed. Dara McCormack defends from Salada down into the hairpin. Behind sits Koke Lopez, but McCormack struggling with the damage on the car.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to score something decent here. Obviously, McCormack down in 15th position was involved in that opening stage. I think it might have actually, I said it might have been McCormack who made the issue. I think based on the damage, it might well have been Mikael Schmiedel. So 10th and 15th, 25 points is what they'd be scoring. That won't be enough to move through into the quarterfinals straight away. So they'll have to go through the second chance race at the moment. Big speed, though, being taken as they head back out on the start-finish straight as he tries to get past Salada, and should be able to drag himself past before they get even across the line. 4 minutes left to go, though. Should be about 4 laps. A bit of contact there between the two of them. Yeah, it should be about 4 laps from this point, because they're about 90 seconds lapped. But Guerre is so far ahead.
That's a big squeeze, by the way. Great camera work from our team at SBTV, showing the group at IndyCar what 360 cameras can really do. Squirrel out through the opening sector, not quite at that chicane at 5, 6, and 7 just yet, but now with gap starting to build, field settling down, let's see if we can work through the mental math and calculate how things stand right now. I think no question though, Vitality, yes, they're comfortable. TC Esports, EMM, and Williams F1 Team Gaming, I think those are the 3 that sit inside the cut line right now.
Yeah, I'm being sent some points, although thank you, by the way, to Felix Van Delft, who's trying to find and gather the points for us. Vitality, yes, TC Esports, EMM, and Williams F1 Team Gaming are the ones that are there, but I think 0 point haven't been counted on there as well. So we'll have to come back to that. It's quite hard to track some of these teams and drivers, but I do believe that definitely, yes, Motorsports, they are in prime position to move through. Vitality for sure. Williams F1 Team Gaming for sure. I think TC Esports are definitely going through as well. It's a tricky one. We'll find out in 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Thibaut Casamon in front of Thomas Ribeiro. This could actually be the struggles for 0 Point Racing, who I think might have actually been inside of that margin. Ribeiro all the way down to 13th on our timing as we head back to turn 2. There's Latkovsky, who is scored just in front of his teammate, and there he is, Ribeiro with damage on the front right. That might be 0 Point Racing heading to the last chance race.
Yeah, EMM would take their spot in due process as well. Like I say, it's a tricky one. The fact that though the EMM have come into, know, obviously they had the drama at turn 2, fair enough, but the fact that the champions have come into this race and have looked not insanely convincing. Speaking of the devil, there is Yone Simicic, who's been round and now gets himself involved in a fight with Barretto and is able to at least keep it out of the barriers somewhat. That was the Samantha Tan Racing Esports card that came through. Minute and 30 seconds left to go. We'll get a lap after this one as they head their way down towards turn 12. But yeah, EMM, they have had a tricky ride so far in the heat. They'll need to tidy that one up for the quarterfinals if they're getting immediately passed into it.
Well, one thing we haven't mentioned, Lewis, is that we do have race control, and their penalty points will impact the final results and who moves forward from this. And I can already tell you Latkovsky's got 3 penalty points from contact with Marcel Chinchik. So I get the sneaking suspicion that our team's going to be quite busy picking through that opening lap.
Yeah, there's a lot to deal with in there. There'll be look, this is why they do race control. This is why we do commentary, because they know what they're doing in that one, and they'll be flicking through that as quick as possible, but also doing it, by ticking off the right people and whatnot. But it's not going to be an easy one. I think, thankfully, outside of that, whilst there's been a little bit of elbows and handbags at dawn, but it's been relatively, in air quotes, clean. But that's from what we've seen. And there's 20-odd cars on this grid, and so you never really know.
Yep.
Great look on board here with Keith Lee.
That's what I was thinking. Somewhere through the field, someone's saying, Lewis is a liar. It's been a crazy race. My teammate, Jack Keithley, going back to that Wrench Sports Summit a few months ago, so no bias, but, we are the best wrestling tag team in the sim racing business. I love this track, by the way, Lewis. These onboard shots really do it justice.
I love a street circuit. I love the speed that we get around here, of course, based loosely on the Birmingham Super Prix back in the late 80s, early, I think it was 89. But here comes Gabor Guillet. First race in this competition this year. It looks like it's going to be a W for him.
And W for Yes Motorsports as well. Barely a reaction in the pitch black as he grabs the win here at South City Long, although not backing down as we fly out through turn 1. I wonder if there might still be 1 lap to go. Indeed, yes, on to the final lap now, Lewis.
Yeah, indeed. Now we get the call for the final lap. Okay, so we'll see the timer to 0 and then we'll start the final lap. I'm with you. Koke Lopez here for TC Esports trying to make some progress. Doesn't need to do too much though, because this is one of the things. Koke Lopez is the 3rd driver for TC Esports here. He's got his teammates in Keith Lee and Sabero right up there in 7th and 8th. So TC Esports will be scoring really, really well at the moment. However, if Lopez gets involved in an instant hit and causes a crash, those penalty points will be taken off of the team's total. Sobrero
and Keithley have just lost a bunch of positioning as well.
Yeah, there was one.
That was Sobrero stopped on the inside of the track at turn 6. It's all gone wrong on the last lap.
It has all fallen apart for TC Esports, and things have been thrown up in the air. Any mathematics that anyone's been doing, throw them straight into the bin. Another car into the barrier just in our foreground. David Sobrero dropping right the way down the order. Wow, race control will have a lot to do at the end of this race as we see the checkered flag potentially this time by. Hopefully doing it properly. My bad.
Take 2. I'll blame Lewis. I'll throw him under the bus. But it's Gabor Guillet who out to the final corner. Yes Motorsports will take the victory and a 2nd car inside of the top 5 as well. What a result here in the first race of our spring season in the Esports Racing League.
Marcel Chinchik bouncing back after a pretty disappointing run for R8G and the Vitality squad last season. 2nd and 3rd hit in heat number 1. The perfect start, relatively speaking, to this season. They'll be moving straight through. For Guerre's teammate Lagukas will finish in 4th position as well, so there's some good points coming in.
Lewis, I think we may have just gotten some reports that some of our teams have underfueled for that first race of the season.
Ah, yes. I
mean, it's a fixed setup, so I'm not quite sure how that would work.
To be fair, though, I will say it is the longest 12-minute race that I've ever seen in my life, 40 minutes and 52 seconds. So, you know, some people might have underfueled it a little bit, but that would make sense if that's what TC Esports did and why they dropped back. They were expecting it to be that 12-minute, presuming maybe that extra lap that was added on. I'm sure, again, all these bits will have been communicated from race control to the teams. They will know where they've been at. I can't remember what the things that you can change some things in the setups, but I don't believe fuel is one of them.
Well,
where is it in the document?
I think it ended up being, because of the pace maybe of our race leader, it might have ended up being 1 lap longer than initially we were expecting. So again, it's not the team making an issue.
Here we go. The only things that you're allowed to change on the setups are steering wheel ratio, brake balance, maximum brake force, and fuel load at the start. So yes, that's not fixed.
Well, having said that, because the race went a lap longer than it was intended to, that's a technical issue, it sounds like. Just being told that race control will take the results from the lap before. So even though caught out, I think the fair thing to do, Lewis, at the end of the day. Great race, though, putting all the drama at the end aside. What it might mean is less drama in race control's position to work through, too.
Yeah, and that does mean that for TC Esports, they'll be very thankful for that, that's for sure. Like I say, tricky first race, fair enough. We're all getting used to LFS. Like I say, some mishaps in there. That means that we did call it right in the first place. So we're perfect.
So really what we need to do is just go and clip that 1 lap off the broadcast and magic from the world of TV. Nothing necessarily went wrong. For Yes Motorsports, wow, a lot of things went right, Lewis, as we wait for the provisional results to trickle in.
Yeah, very much so. A big yes, indeed. Great drive from Guerre. Absolutely dominant performance. Great as well for Williams. You know, the kind of rise up. Don Bly being right up there in the rise up from Nikodem Vishnevsky. The big question marks. EMM. I would say that this is not a question of pace because they showed that in qualifying. I think the fact that they had 2 of their heavy hitters that were right at the front, being Mikael Schmidl and Darren McCormack, were both involved in that turn 2 crash. They were just wrong place, wrong time. Again, we haven't seen it, so we can't really judge that. I'm sure it's been looked at by race control, but I'm sure EMM, they're one of those where they're either in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. They're in that kind of area, which for our defending champions, definitely not where they were expected to be so far this evening.
But I think, Lewis, we go back to last year as we grab a glimpse of some of the action, and I think plenty of the fighting on this first run down is what the race control team is going to be looking at. Rafa ERA by no means dominant through the season. You know, it wasn't until the end that they really established themselves as the favorites. That just seems clumsy. I think there's no other word to describe it.
Yeah, this is on board, I think, with McCormack here. So he's defending from a car behind, gets on the brakes, straight in the side. Must have missed his braking point.
Well,
missed his braking point.
He's just put into the chat in the VCO Discord that his game had frozen, and by the time it had unfrozen, everyone was upside down into turn 1. That was a bit more aggressive, though, and I think race control will have a bit more to say about that one.
Yeah, like I say, a couple of bits to be dealt with here. Cody Nikolakovsky directly ahead of us. We're on board with one of the Vitalities. And to be fair, Latkovsky, I'll be real here. Latkovsky, I think, moves over in that braking zone quite aggressively.
More fighting into the fast turn 1. Cool, back end steps out, and that is Ribeiro. Hellacious. That's exactly what happened to Thomas Ribeiro.
Yeah, Ribeiro going for that, or trying to keep that foot. I mean, look, these cars and this car track combo, not an easy one to deal with. Very, very tricky to navigate. This car is quite slippery. Those barriers are extremely close. And this track, when it comes to a street circuit, is so difficult because it's so fast. It is such a thrill ride around. Getting close to those barriers, chucking it between the walls. It is a brilliant drive from Goyev. Had absolutely no idea of the drama behind.
And he's so unaware of the drama that he hasn't come to join us for a chat just yet. So I don't think we're going to get a chance to have a conversation with the first race winner in the brand new ERL season. But it does mean that we can start to focus up towards heat number 2, where Absolute Motorsport, just 2 drivers for them as well as for Customs GT, but all other teams with strength in numbers, BS Plus competition. They'll be one to watch, as I think will Team Nitro. They'll be a little bit disappointed, I think, on reflection with how the Final 4 ended up going back in January. And Visceral Esports, they had such a strong start to the last season in the ERL. Can they maintain that momentum this time around?
Well, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? That's starting on LFS is so different to what we've raced last season, and so any team that have got great form, like we had with obviously in this case Team Nitro, we have with EMM in the last one, doesn't mean you're going to start out as strong this season, but it is what it is.
There's Marco Pajic in that orange, I would assume, BS competition shirt. Great thing about BS is I'm hoping that the cars on track will have different colors as well to make my life and Lewis's life a bit simpler. I do think, by the way, we do have Race 1 winner standing by. So as we look at qualifying, which we should note, by the way, is an open session. All cars on track at the very same time. Just one hot lap, though. Let's catch up with Race 1 winner. He's standing by with Lewis. No, he's not. He ran away from us.
Which is fair. You know, he wants to see what's happening in this qualifying. Absolutely understand. Fair shout. I'm sure, based on pace, we'll be catching up with Gabor a little bit later on this evening after that incredible drive. That means that we can refocus completely on this qualifying session, and we can see the high speeds of South City Long,
which is based on a fictional, or is not based, I should say, on a fictional track. It's based on a real track, but is very much kind of fictional, based on former street circuit in Birmingham. But from what we can tell, somehow it's made its way down to London in the virtual Live for Speed.
It is the South City London Borough, apparently. It's based loosely on the Birmingham Super Prix. That kind of idea. A little bit wider, a little bit higher speed. But, I mean, to be fair, the Birmingham Super Prix was mental. So, seeing Super Tourers be flung around. If you haven't seen it, I'm pretty sure the broadcast of it is on YouTube and definitely worth a watch. Absolutely cracking. Bit of motorsport heritage as we're seeing a few. Oh, Visceral's got Isaac Price. There we go. Seeing where some of these drivers have ended up.
They've got Isaac Price, but no livery on their car, apparently. But I did see that they got it in, so see if that updates at some point. Provisional results, by the way, from Heat 1, Lewis, as I have them. Vitality, yes. Williams F1 Team Gaming, TC, and EMM, the 5 teams that will move forward as Team Nitro, Leon Burt. That was a great run out of turns 1 and 2.
Yeah, to be clear, when you say Vitality, yes, you don't mean Vitality, yes, they're in. You mean Vitality are in, and yes, the team, yes, Motorsport are also in, and then like you say, Williams, TC, and EMM. So going on countback, TC, I wouldn't say getting lucky. They played their cards really well in that race and ran out of fuel, but just means they were playing the fuel number very, very close as we start to see some of the extremely high speeds on board with Leon Burt dropping down the hill. Big braking zone here into a double right-hander. Flicks it through, climbs back up the hill. Gotta say, this car sounds great.
And the car it's based on is, the way it was described to me was introduction to slicks and wings, right? So it's such an interesting concept to throw around this sort of a track, because it's not a road-based car like we'll be racing on Gran Turismo. It is a purpose-built racing machine, but maybe with a bit more compliance and forgiveness than a thoroughbred race car. But just look how much purpose it has as it navigates out of that final hairpin, and Leon Burt sprints to the line.
I'll tell you what, watching these these drivers throw these cars around. I love myself a street circuit. I kind of want to give this a go. The only thing is that never, ever, this is some advice here for you, Arjuna, do not challenge our broadcast director to a 1v1 on LFS. Oh. Hugo Luis has plenty of experience on this platform and is happy to drive at any angle around here. I watched him drive a Caterham around the shorter version of this circuit, sideways. It might not have been a Caterham properly, I don't know, but it was sideways pretty much the entire time.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was your first problem, was challenging an iRacing world champion to a one-on-one. Lewis, a good friend of mine, but I'm never going to lie to you and tell you you'd have any hope against Hugo, let alone I think who was the other driver that you often mentioned? Kevin Siggy. You once raced in the field with him. Don't think you'd much hope against him too.
No, certainly not these days. I've got more hope of taking on Rory McIlroy around Augusta National, but either way, we'll see the drivers kind of navigate this qualifying session. They're kind of trying to find that clear bit of air. Obviously, like you say, open session, so everyone's on circuit at the same time. As much as this is circuit, which is quite high speed, I would absolutely not be looking for anyone's slipstream or anything like that. I just want to get the lap in by myself, get me away from anyone else.
And we're not going to, as I would assume, not going to get this open qualifying session for any of the other rounds, with the exception of the last garage, which I think we did have open qualifying for, Lewis. I could be wrong on that one, because unfortunately we were a little bit further away. We were a bit further away from the drivers, couldn't quite look over their shoulders. But lone qualifying is such a different situation. At least here we've maintained the one-lap pressure, right? Where you have to get it done, otherwise you're starting at the back of the grid.
Yeah, there's not really much margin for error either, which is certainly not helping. Yanni Kattler here throwing the car around, bit of lap traffic as well to navigate his way past in the Visceral Esports car, sliding left and right. This car is all over the place in the hands of Yanni Kattler, and yeah, just I guess just warming up tires. I guess I don't know. That's crazy.
Well, isn't there a certain physics model that was often complained about being a bit too drifty with the tires? Every sim's got its little quirks, right? And so everyone's trying to understand those nuances. Our broadcast director actually probably has a lot more experience around those nuances than most of the drivers in the field right now, I would say. I'd be very curious who has done more than 10 hours of Live for Speed before this championship was announced.
Right, that is actually a great shout, because I genuinely don't think it's many. Yes, there will be some that have got many hours logged, but not too many. Percentage-wise of the field, certainly is going to be a pretty low one. So we're on board with Yanni Kattler, tyres up to temperature, flicks it into turn 2, which saw all the drama in the previous race, back over to the left-hand side before the right-hander of 3, getting perfectly close to the barriers, less sliding on this lap, still a little bit there, going through 3 over the tram tracks, back over them again, flicking through the right-hander once more, now into the left. This is where things get a little bit tighter. We've got a bit of a chicane afterwards, keeping it going left, back over to the right-hand side, climbing back up the hill. What a beautiful lap so far.
I tell you what, his teammate sits on top, so he's got the benchmark to live up to at this point as he sweeps out through one of the brief opportunities to breathe. You don't get many of them on this lap, that's for sure. Heavy braking zone then into the hairpin at turn 10. Not the best as he flicks it back over the crest of turn 11. And now one more chance to breathe as you blend onto the motorway and in towards the final corner. This section, by the way, does kind of remind me of Gran Turismo and a certain track in Japan that they have.
Yeah, certainly has got that kind of vibe. Very brief that we're on it, but still. Now into the left-hand return 12. Final corner of the circuit. Throttle pedal down. Still quite a lot to do though when it comes to steering. You've got to be buttery smooth through all of this, and obviously keeping it as close to the barriers. 1:30.005 to beat in the hands of Isaac Price. He put his Visceral up onto the front row or even onto pole position. Does put it on the front row. So Visceral taking serious control of this qualifying session, got those tyres right into the working window and slaps the car onto the front row.
Wow, that is... Well, I did say that, you know, they started the last DRL season off strongly. They've done so once again. And the wily old veteran, Isaac Price, proves why you can never count him out.
Yeah, I think he would be one of the drivers that does have more than 10 hours of game time here on LFS before this season was announced. And again, very well deserved pole position there, but a great start to the session for Visceral up there as well. Did see for Team Nitro, Gronewold is up and in contention. So there's a few drivers that we'd expect to see up there. I'm not sure where Page was for BS Competition. I think he's got some time. Obviously, BS Competition's latest signing, Aidan Walsingham, up there in third, looking pretty solid.
It's a good field. It's a good field, but I think we are seeing that the margins grow, right? Because of the open qualifying session. I think once we get into the quarterfinal, where we're going to have a lot of cars on track once more, I think the pressure of qualifying actually goes up, because track position, yes, we've seen the chaos at turn 2 in the opening heat of the event, but we know how important track positioning is. You don't want to start at the back and fight your way forward.
Yeah, like it's kind of one of those ones where you can get away with it a little bit, even here in the heats, because they are chaotic, because they are dramatic, because things happen. Look at like Nikodem Vishnevsky, who qualified in the middle of the field and then worked his way up into a solid position in the top 10. Like that's quite not easy to do, but that's possible to do here in the heats. That will become less possible as the evening goes on. Once we get into the quarterfinals, it will still be pretty possible, but then once we get into the quarters, smaller fields, just 6 teams in that one, then things start to get a little bit more difficult. By the time we get to the finals, there'll be just potentially 9 drivers out on the field. You will need to be on those front couple of rows. That pressure will really, really build. And qualifying 9th on that, you're probably not going anywhere really from that.
As our drivers now just wait to move forward into the race, I'm just wondering, you know, this track is about 4 kilometers long, so it's not necessarily a long golf course. But Lewis, if you were to play the game of hitting a golf ball around the track, and the challenge here is it cannot go out of the track bounds. It must stay within
Stinger Central. Gotcha.
Exactly. You got me. You can use the Ross Chastain off the wall if you want to. How many golf shots do you think it's going to take you to get around here?
I think less than you'd think. The tricky section, this is a really specific question. But like, you don't really want to rip driver, because you could slice it, put it like, unless you're going to hit it really low. It's
my driver
3,
is
4,
magic
5, 6. That section's pretty difficult. Past 8, you just tap it and it'll just work its way down the hill. That bit out of 10 though, because it is a steep hill out of 10. Big climb out of there. It's that's a tricky part. So lights go green. The drivers will wait, and we'll get 12 minutes onto the board. Arjuna, who's your pick for winning this one?
Oh, I'm not picking.
Come on.
Mainly because I don't want to curse Visceral and the story that would be off the front row. Obviously that is my pick. I think that'll be the best, but it all goes into how we run through turn 1, right? We had so much chaos. Dara McCormack is his technical issue, meaning that stay out of trouble. It's easier said than done, right? And yeah, I think Isaac Price hoping he can have a clean run down into that opening corner.
Well, the lights are on for the drivers, and 12 minutes will be onto the clock ahead of us. Heat number 2 is Go Hit in ERL on Live for Speed. It was an untidy run in turn 2 in race number 1. Will it be untidy this time? Isaac Price will take the defensive line. Aidan Walsingham has a great start up in the second position. He's trying to attack for the race lead. He's trying to find his way around Isaac Price, as there is a spinner. Tobias Gronewold has been spun round, and there's chaos coming out of turn 2 once again.
Yeah, he started the chaos, and he's the biggest loser as a result of it as well. Trying to sneak up the inside of Yoni Katia, who did a great job to hang on to the rear end of his Radix P6 as it went around, but now slither out through the chicane 5, 6, and 7. Still with Price leading the way. Great spot for Visceral Esports as they run 1 and 3rd right now. And into the heavy braking zone they will go, and plenty of separation between the front 5.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully for Team Nitro, despite that moment for Gronewold, obviously they've got Nicholas Halbert and Leon Bent down in 5th and 6th position to still scoring comfortably the amount of points to be one of the top 5 teams. Obviously, your Isaac Price, your Yoni Kattler, they'll be in position, and wow, that is a car completely on its side, and I'm going to assume that is a car going no further in the proceedings. Here's Leon Burnt under a bit of pressure as the Boutelet is going to get to the outside.
The Boutelet will be on display in Gran Turismo 7, where he's got so much experience, but done plenty of iRacing as well. Great to see him be trusted by BS Plus competition. He's alongside of Leon Burnt as we head up the main straight to the fast left-hander at turn 1. You can make the outside work, but we saw one car run over the bump and straight into the outside wall. Nicely navigated by Leon, but he's got no choice to tuck into line behind the zebra in front.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a particularly bad thing. Let's think points, let's think big picture. He's thinking, let's think, get that position back. Thank you very much. To the inside of Burnt it goes, but Boutelet is able to hang on. You've got Marco Pajic trying to get past Santama as well. This is very tricky through this section as they go through 6. Now back over to the right-hand side before flicking it through 7, the left-hander, dropping back down into that double hairpin sequence, or double right-hander sequence that we were talking about a little bit earlier on, where it drops really aggressively downhill before climbing once again out of it. There is a bit of side-by-side as Pajic is trying to keep past Christoph Karekis.
Trying to figure out, by the way, if this is going to be a 9-lap race or if it will end up being 8 laps like we had in the first heat, because if any of the teams chose to take out fuel, which is an interesting thing in a fixed setup race, that you can adjust something as significant as fuel, which obviously influences weight and stuff, but it's neither here nor there. Isaac Price still feels the pressure, though. Aiden Walshingham is right there, one of the newest zebras in the herd.
Yeah, and I think that wasn't a particularly great exit from Isaac Price. Obviously, the slipstream from Aiden Walsingham will give him potentially a run down into turn 2. BS Competition scoring very nicely here at the moment, very provisional, but I did get sent those points at the moment from Felix van Delft. It'll be Visceral, BS Competition, Nitro, Referox, and of course Owls, who will be the teams moving through at present, but that will be changing on a lap by lap basis as Karekis is able to get past Krignovsky.
Some decent fighting, but remember, the third of the Visceral cars, all he's really trying to do is avoid picking up penalty points at this stage. Already lost, is that 4 off the board, given the amount of attrition? Yeah. There's Aiden Walshingham, who's just come off another good season in the Porsche Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain on iRacing. Don't expect him to force the issue here. He'll be very content to finish second.
Second is more than enough, especially with Le Boutelet there, with Pajic there. Definitely more than enough for the for BS Competition, for the team, for the herd, and so I don't suspect. I mean, it'll keep pressure on. We'll try and look for the victory. You want that win going into the quarterfinals. But if you're playing big picture and you're playing the long game, there is absolutely no reason to go on the attack here of Isaac Price. There's no reason for Cattler to try anything here on Walsingham either, so they'll be pretty fine. Behind, Marco Pajic will probably just have to stay out of trouble as Sentima's trying to get through. They're going to stay side by side in that run down the back stretch as well.
By the way, I take back what I said about Aiden. Remember, he was one of the most winningest drivers in last season's ERL, yep. So if he gets an opportunity, he won't say no. As we head into...
He won the first race, didn't he?
You are testing my memory.
I'm pretty sure he won the first race that we did last season. It was ACC at the Red Bull Ring, and I'm pretty sure he was victorious in that Camaro.
That's a good shout. I'm not going to disagree or agree with you. I'm going to go back and dig through the record books and see if I can figure out what happened. Yeah,
I mean, look, either way, we did have a great season on... Well, in the competition, I was going to say on the platform, because we were jumping between platforms. Aiden Walsingham's one that's been showing some really good speed. Obviously, has come from a more ACC-focused and oriented background, but has spread out a little bit since the esports competition on ACC's kind of fluttered a little bit in the last couple of years. So it's had to find that competition elsewhere. It's jumped over to iRacing, like we say in the Porsche Carrera Cup GB. Marco Pajic here once again with a great run to get past Leon Burnt. We'll look to the outside of the Team Nitro driver. Nitro with the inside line in the hands of Leon Burnt. If he's not careful, Pajic might be a sitting duck here for Sentima to come back through in the Referox car.
can confirm, by the way, Aidan Walshingham did win the first race in the return to the Esports Racing League, so good memory there, Lewis. He's also a former Live for Speed driver, according to the Visceral team manager, Pranav, who's in our Twitch chat right now. Pajic on the inside as they fly out through turn 1 under those bridges. Can he squeeze out through the second corner? Leon Burt still there, and now will hold the inside as they sweep up through the double right-hander. Pajic roars around the outside, though. That was brave.
Fantastic news, fantastic racing. If this is showing what we're going to be getting in the finals later on, sign me up, because we've had some great fights. Yes, the turn 2 drama in both Heat 1 and Heat 2 has been a little bit too much maybe, but realistically speaking, we've had some great battling, some exciting racing, and some great passes, like we saw there from Marco Pajic, as down into this double right-hander again. It is, it's kind of one, it looks on a track mode like it's an overtaking opportunity. The more you see it on the speed you're going into it, absolutely not. There isn't actually that many great overtaking opportunities, even here down into turn 12. Because you can defend it so easily, as Bernd did prove on the previous lap, looking to the outside is almost impossible to get all the way around the outside there, because the speed you carry through this hairpin, it's so high.
I think it's almost one of those things, you know, even with the fact that in the ERL, the track only gets announced the day before, right? We had the pick ban phase we talked about in our pre-show. Even with that limited practice, these drivers are able to dial in that muscle memory, right? And you compare that to the real world, Lewis, you don't get that same level of practice. It just doesn't exist. And the muscle memory doesn't exist as well. And so you get more natural passing opportunities, you get more natural mistakes, whereas these drivers, for the most part, almost look as though they're on rails running behind one another.
As they literally run over the rails of the tram line here. Definitely. Once again, well, I mean, I was going to say we do have trams in South London, but it's only in, well, it's not in South, it's in East, or in the West rather. Is it West or East? Oh, who knows? Who cares?
Maybe
East
the North.
Anyway,
who knows?
It's Croydon. Actually, to be fair, Croydon is in South London, so maybe I am wrong. It is definitely not the North, that is for sure. Christoph Korekis, we're on board here for Visceral, down into 9 again. Everyone gives that bit of a look, but you're sliding it into that corner. It's just not possible. Updated provisional points. Visceral on 4, BS Competition on 8, Nitro on 13, Referox on 13 as well, and Thomas Enger Sim Racing will be on 27, which means that Ours Customs GP and the Absolute Motorsport Aslith team, they will not be progressing through at present.
This race a lot simpler than our first heat, I think it's fair to say. Remember, though, that for the teams that don't advance directly, they go into that second chance race where only one of their drivers on the team is competing. So it's a very different race that we'll be in for. And, you know, I'm kind of excited. What happens when you shrink the numbers down and let these drivers have a bit more room to run? Not much room out through turns 1 and 2. I tell you what, we've seen plenty of side-by-side action through there. And if you're on the outside of turn 1 and 2, it seems to work quite nicely. Korekis slices forward.
Yeah, I think it's because the slipstream you get going from 12 out of the final corner, the slipstream you get is going to bring you side by side. Because turn 1 is so fast, you can stick it around the outside and just commit that little bit deeper on the brakes. As much as turn 2 on the track map looks pretty tight, in reality, it is still plenty wide enough. Isaac Price is checked out by 1.3 seconds over Aidan Walshingham. Yoni Kattler in 3rd position. I don't think we'll be going too much on the attack. This is the closest fight that we've really got on the circuit. It's Nicholas Halban trying to keep Thomas Leboutelet at bay. Oh, into the barrier, just a touch, just clipping that rear right. I would say if I'm the BS Competition team, if I'm in Leboutelet's car, no need to go on the attack. Obviously, you want to try and get through and get into the top 5, but you're in the important spot at the moment. There's a big look down the inside and a big lock up to go with it.
That's the thing he needs to avoid. To be honest, he can afford to fight here. If he makes a mistake and loses a spot, well, Marco Pajic, his teammate behind him, picks up the position. But the thing he can't afford to do is rack up those penalty points. And at the end of the day, as much as they're running on rails, the wheel-to-wheel experience, you cannot discount it. And so as Leboutelet switches back underneath through turn 1, that was a great move. Executed it nicely, and Nicholas Halban gets demoted down to 6th.
time-wise, we should be on the final lap of proceedings. This should be the last one. We'll discuss it as we go. And there we go, the updated graphic. We are on the final lap of the race, which Isaac Price has been dominating. Great fight here. The Bouteille is in the top 5 now. Halvan will be trying to find his way back through. We're going to see a big slipstream fight, I do believe, between these two on that start-finish straight, because I doubt they're going to be separated by more than a couple of tenths across the line.
Leon Burt sandwiches himself into the wall and is going to lose out as a result. Karekas will come through, and I don't think that will be it. Abe Santenema's not close enough into the tight hairpin as Isaac Price alone up front.
Yeah, I mean, try and pick these 3 teams apart. Yes, they are 3 different teams. Fun. Obviously, one of them being a Visceral, one of them being a Team Nitro, the other one being a RaceRoom car as well. Trying to pick those 3 apart is not easy. Why do we always go with black and red? But there is a bit of black and red out front, a little bit of white on the front as well. But Isaac Price is going to cement his place in history once more. Another victory for him in his sim racing career. This time, though, our 2nd race on LFS. 2nd race of the new season here in ERL. And it will be Isaac Price on top. Dominating performance once again.
It's WEC spec, black and red, isn't it? A drag race to the line. Abe Santenema comes out just in front of Leon Byrne, so pays the price for the contact. And don't forget, there's still contact after you cross the line. As a little bit of argy-bargy in the aftermath. But that now means that, Lewis, we have 10 teams moving forward to the quarterfinal. Our race control team still picking their way through some incidents, but we're getting ready for the second chance race for the first time this season.
Yeah, and I do believe, like I say, we've already had Vitality, yes, Williams F1 Team Gaming, TC and EMM from the first heat. I believe that has stuck. And then it'll be potentially from this point Visceral, BS, Team Nitro, Ferox, and of course the Thomas Eng Sim Racing team should be the ones to move through. But I'm sure there might have been some late changes there late on in that race.
That race time, by the way, a little bit more, I think, appropriate and what the teams are expecting. So 12:50 instead of, what was it, 14:50 or something like that. It was pretty lengthy, the race that we finished in Heat 1. So just goes to show why our race control team made that call, and I think once again correct call was made.
Very much so. I mean, look, easy mistakes to make on all parts, and the right decision has been carried out outside of that. So that's the important side of it.
Tell you what, while we wait for our points to get finalized for us to be able to move forward to the second chance race, why don't we catch up with a race winner, Lewis McLeod with Isaac Price.
Isaac Price in the commentary booth with us again. Obviously, one of our, I'm going to say this respectfully, so hold yourself, one of our elder statesmen in sim racing compared to a lot of the young guns. I'm sure plenty of experience on LFS back in the day. I mean, what have you made of this? That was a great drive and a great victory. What's it like being back on LFS?
Yeah, I mean, I've been back playing LFS since the pandemic, really. So, yeah, it's not too much new ground for me, but obviously the update's new and the tracks are a little bit different, and the people we're racing against are different as well. Like, I mean, I'm used to racing Aiden in Porsche GB or on ACC. I'm not used to racing him on LFS as often. A long time ago, yes, back in 2014, but not for a while. So it's definitely familiar, but slightly different.
Try and describe this car track combo to us from a driving perspective, because obviously, clearly, someone who gets along well with this car track combo very clearly. It's such high speed and so brutal. What's that like as a driver?
Yeah, you have to be very precise, but it's a car that kind of lets you hustle it around a little bit, which is what I like from a car, really. But yeah, obviously very punishing if you make a mistake. So yeah, you kind of really have to be in the zone to drive well around this track.
Now, refocusing on yourself, on the team, Visceral Esports for you this season. Looks like you've got a great couple of teammates in Katla and Karekas. What are you expecting from tonight? Because it seems as though not only are you right the way up there, but I mean, Yoni Katla finished on the podium as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to always know what to expect. Like, I think if you ran this event enough times, we'd win the whole thing, I think, tonight at some point. But we've seen in the past that potential doesn't always mean that you get the result in the one that counts, right? Like in the past, RHG went out on Rensport in the the first round. So, you know, it can happen. If it can happen to them, it can happen to anyone. You just got to keep your focus on whatever the goal is next, and just take the evening as far as we can. Obviously, there's a few strong teams out there. Obviously, you know, familiar names, and also the Yes Motorsports guys who are, you know, masters of Live for Speed. And I know that Gabor's probably, this is like his favorite track, or one of his favorite tracks. So I'm sure that'll be tough to beat as well. Yeah, and at the end of the day, with the way these qualies are, anyone, if they put their PB together, could be at the front, and then it's hard to overtake in the race. So just have to wait and see how it goes.
Well, Isaac, it's great to hear from you. I hope it's not going to be the last time we hear from you this evening. We'll see you in the quarterfinals a little bit later on.
Thank you very much.
There we go, Artino. Great to hear from Isaac Price. This is how he won the race. I mean, obviously there was that drama behind once again at turn 2, but got that start right, led away from pole. Teammate Yanni Kattler, though, did lose that race. He didn't quite get an as good start as Aidan Walsingham, who was able to find his way through into second, but it was on the exit of turn 2, wasn't it, where the Team Nitro of Gran was spun round. And like you say, you called it absolutely right. See, I get you commentary, you commentary boy. Yanni Kattler was tapped on the side by Gran.
Occasionally, my eyes do show me the way, as it were, on board. It was an interesting camera perspective, but you know, I think what we have kind of learned, Lewis, from our heat races, the start is crucial. There's no doubt about it, right? Shuffling around for track position. It's an opening, inviting, I should say, turn 2. And after that, things settle down so quickly. If you don't make your moves off the start, it's difficult to work your way forward. Typical street circuit, isn't it?
Very, very much so. You get those big crashes in the opening stages, but look, it kind of settled down, and we did get some great racing up and down the field. A little bit of Referox, I believe, might be the Team Nitro, again, really hard to pick, going side by side with one of the Viscerals. And BS Competition here, trying to work their way back through. This would be Marko Pejic, I believe, trying to get through. It might have been Labutale, but I'm pretty sure it was Pejic who was the one in this position, trying to find his way past. A little bit of leaning on.
And then as the fighting continued, remember, these were some teams already settled into their points position, including what was some great fighting from Marko Pejic trying around the outside. I think what we could be in for, Lewis, when we get to the final, slightly different format this year, of course, with 3 teams, just 1 race. But imagine the fighting that we could have, and really no separation was really building through the field at times.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it back, by the way. It was Labutale on this one, because I remember this bit, like, absolutely full send, sticking it around the outside, little bit of leaning. That was a really, really good move. Or was it Pejic? I can't remember. Again, they were quite close on the track at the same point, but regardless, it was BS Competition car making a great move. That was the important bit. Referox here under pressure from Visceral, turn 12. Again, we're seeing the outside attempt happen time and time again at turn 12, but it doesn't quite work. But I guess it's more about setting you up for that kind of move down at turn 2.
Yeah, it's compromised the other car off that final corner, and it is then all about the drag race down off into turns 1 and 2. It was Pejic, by the way, in that clip earlier. He was the 94. This was Labutale in the 96, who nursed that damage on the right front. And I think, again, we're going to see the most from Labutale when we head to Gran Turismo 7. I think he's going to be maybe one of the quickest, although Vitality as well. They've got a stacked driver lineup.
As Leon burnt into the barrier, just a touch, and here's Isaac Price coming straight back up to the line. Brilliantly dominant performance again. Look, unlike last season, where Gran Turismo 7 was like the standout big question mark, right? That was the one that we all kind of went into thinking that was going to be the deciding factor. Hilariously, RHG were the one that won that one, and it ended up clearly not being the big decider because it didn't go through into the final anyway. So clearly you need to put the work in elsewhere. But that was the one that we had the big question mark. This season, all of them, because LFS is used, again, by a small sim racing community, like quite a lot. And that's kind of similar for RaceRoom. There are a few drivers, like I said before, like with Tomasz Ribeiro, Cody Nikolakovsky, drivers like that are really, really well experienced with RaceRoom that we'll be dealing with a little bit later on in the season. it's a little bit more up in the air. I've got to say, BS Competition, I think, have made some cracking signings this season.
It's a strong lineup. I think I'm going to slightly disagree with you, though, Lewis, because RaceRoom, Live for Speed, and iRacing, I think all share probably a core of being a bit more of a simulation than anything else. And I think when it comes to adapting between those platforms, it's kind of like driving a car with different tires, right? There's a little bit of learning to do, but it's fundamentally still a lot of the same things. Gran Turismo, that is a whole new world in a lot of ways. And remember, Darren McCormack raced on a controller because he just didn't get a wheel at the end, right? So I think it is still the differentiator. But what we saw last year was RAG just had such a poor year. There's no other way to say it, right?
Yeah.
They went out in the first round more than once. An inexcusable thing for a team of their caliber. Kawanda did it once and got a lot closer to the Final Four, but also missed out. The reality is, if you're not making quarterfinals, you're not going to be a contender, let alone a championship fight.
To be clear, by the way, I still think that Gran Turismo 7 is going to be one of the more deciding factors, especially because we only have 4 preseason rounds, so one less than last season. But my point was more like, obviously, last season, when you look at the simulator platforms we were dealing with in ACC, LMU, then, of course, in Rensport and iRacing, those all have a lot more relative similarities than iRacing to LFS and LFS to RaceRoom. Those 3, yes, whilst they, like I say, driving a car with different tires and whatever, fair enough, I get that, but there are fundamental things they drive completely differently to each other, whereas ACC to LMU to iRacing and even to Rensport, there is quite a lot of overlap, which is why if you're really fast on one, you're probably going to be really fast on all of them.
You're not going to like what I'm about to say. Tough.
I think it's fair.
You and I will agree
like
on this,
it.
but it goes back to the muscle memory, right? And it's where sometimes the hardcore sim racing doesn't actually have that much of a tie-in to real world racing, right? Because you and I both know that, think about Formula E. How many 2 laps or 2 consecutive laps in a race are never going to be the same in terms of energy management, the cars around you, and it's about adapting to all of that, right? Being the intelligent driver, which even Dan Ticktum can do, just for the record, I firmly agree that he is a capable driver. But it's about making the decisions in the moment. Whereas for the most part, Lewis, we don't get to see that in sim racing, which is why I'm just saying I love the pick and ban selection that we're doing. My vote would be to do it live at the start of the broadcast and no one gets a chance to practice. That's going to make me a very unpopular person in the community, I think.
I completely agree. I've been, me, I've been hammering it home for years now. The way that you make sim racing more exciting and more dramatic, and it is unpopular from the drivers, for most of them. Some of them really like it, but for the most part, they don't like it. The way you make it more exciting is you basically bin off their ability to practice. If you remove as much time and chance they have to practice as possible, you start getting a really exciting product. Now, we have limited it in a sense, right? Not everyone's going to be practicing every single race, but they do know what the circuit is a little bit in advance. They do know what they're racing. So it's not quite there yet, but I agree with you. Let's just do it before straight away, right at the start of the broadcast properly.
And that's one of the things that made the Final Four that little bit more dynamic, right? The fact that it was on the Last Garage, a platform that has only been accessible in person at trade shows in the past. You had a car that was designed purpose-built for us. Parsifal Park, the track was unique in ways that you have to go back to watch the broadcast to really understand. So yeah, I really do think there's a lot of things that Florian and the entire VCO team has probably learned from hosting that first of our in-person events and has taken from that. Let's talk quickly about the points now that we've got a couple more penalty decisions that have come through. Think no surprise in Heat 1, Lewis. Yes, Motorsports and Williams F1 Team Gaming. 1 penalty point for Vitality Sim Racing pushes them down to 3rd, but 3 very closely matched teams with TC Esports and EMM moving forward.
And EMM would be the one that I'd look at in there as the great unknown, I guess. Obviously, our champion team from last season, they have a lot more to show. They kind of got dealt a bad deck, obviously with the technical issue there for McCormack, and obviously the big crash that kind of followed it. I think that's what the 2 penalty points would have been from, which I think everyone would accept is probably pretty fair. Yes, it's a technical issue, but there was still a big crash. Someone needs to pay the price, right? The bottom 4, all of those behind that, they'll be going into the second chance race, as will Owls Custom GP and the Absolute Motorsport Asolith. The top 5 teams there, Visceral, great performance, first and third. Could have been first and second. I mean, Cattler definitely had the speed in that. They qualified first and second. BS Competition, again, great speed and great chance for them to do well this evening. Ferox, Team Nitro, and Thomas Eng Sim Racing. Look, it's a tough one to pick apart, isn't it? As to who's going to be the strongest going through the evening. I think from this point on, we really don't know who's going to be the top 6 teams moving into the semi-finals. Thankfully, we don't have to think about that just yet. We don't have to think about who's going to be the top 2 teams here from the second chance race.
And maybe more specifically, top 2 drivers. We don't have to do any fancy calculations because all the teams in this last chance race, it's just one representative who will head out into qualifying, which is underway now. Remember, they all share the track, and I think I'd want to be where the Owls Esports blue, yellow, and black machine is right now at the front of the train. Yes, I don't have any sort of slipstream, but maybe more importantly, there's no one in front of me, and I get to focus on hitting my marks.
Yeah, honestly, like I've said before, I think you shouldn't ever go chasing slipstream on a street circuit like this. We see it time and time again. This is not even just a sim racing thing, or even this event thing. This is a general thing in motorsport and sim racing. The more you try and chase the slipstream, the more likely that someone else is going to mess up your lap. You're better off just going off, finding your own little space in the track, putting in the fastest lap you can. And sure, it might not be, because you're not going to slip, you might not be fast enough for pole position. But by you doing your own thing and putting your own lap together, for a lot of these drivers, you might be in that top 5, maybe even on the front row. Whereas if you're trying to hunt the slipstream all the time, that's all you're looking for, the likelihood is it's either going to be pole position or you're going to be back in the field. And that is not a gamble I want to play with. Separation
building a little bit as... Well, that's a Spanish drift moment through turn 2, unfortunately, for Albert Rogue, who's effectively now just overheated the tires, and that is something that is a concern with Live for Speed. You're managing the thermals, although in the one lap, maybe not such a big thing compared to the slightly longer races that we'll be building up into. Out of the chicane, that was a bit tidier, but still working at the wheel.
Yeah, belt's tightened, and you kind of need it when throwing the car around this bit. Whether they do actually tighten around him and that kind of whatever feedback that goes with it. I've had that once before in sim racing. It's actually very interesting. Very odd feeling, but it works for some to give that extra little bit of detail. Roig's trying to pull every bit out of his car, but maybe pushing that little bit too hard in that opening portion. Still looks like a solid lap that might get a top 5. But remember, we are only looking for 2 drivers. The top 2 drivers after the race, those will be the ones moving through.
And in terms of teams, I don't think there's too many surprises from who is having to push their way from this second chance race. But remember, that was also one of the things that Lewis was part of the return of the Esports Racing League. The fact that we had what were called the so-called core teams, the slightly larger esports organizations, those that have been with the Esports Racing League through previous iterations as well, and then the contender teams. By no means was that splitting them in terms of speed. We had contender teams like Visceral Esports show their speed last year, showing their speed here once again.
Yeah, and again, I'm excited to see them try and show it more and more. Which, like I say, we spend all this time speaking of our like I say, our top teams, our esports teams, and those contender teams, those ones that are a little bit below the cut for that, are the ones that we're kind of very excited to see what they can get out of themselves over a season. There are a few teams, of course, at this point that have you'd maybe classify as a contender team, 0 Point, right, being one of them. I genuinely think they're one of the teams that, from what we've seen there in the heats, they're one team to look at to get through even straight into the semi-finals. I think they would be one of those teams, maybe even a final later on in the night. They are out of position in this, and this should be a relatively easy race for them to at least get one of those top 2 spots in the hands of Cody Nikolatkovsky.
Maybe that is the one team to be slightly surprised by, but I think with the majority of the quick times on the board, Kowski and Vera slated to slot into the front two grid positions as HGE Racing Esports maybe try and match up with the 0 Point Racing. Both those teams, interestingly, coming out of heat number 1. I'm always curious to try and figure out which is going to be the stronger of our heats as we work through this season.
I think based on what we've seen there, you could probably lean towards heat number 1, but look, that's just, again, it's just not always the way. I'm surprised that no one else was straight back out on the circuit there. They're waiting for those seconds to count down as we're seeing Vera work his way to the end of pit lane and find his way out onto the circuit before throwing the car around. Good job we're not doing any pit stops here. Look at this for a pit lane.
That's a dangerous place to be on pit lane. I'd be scared. Right. The car's flying towards us.
That is a proper slip road. I mean, don't get me wrong, I feel like I've thrown my poor little, quite big, Mazda 6 around some slip roads and on-ramps, off-ramps like that before, but maybe not quite as fast. I think it's got quite the power of one of these.
So remember that we are getting ready to eliminate all but 2 of our teams. The top 2 drivers will move their teams forward in what is scheduled to be just a 10-minute second chance race, which, if I'm understanding correctly, then probably means less than 8 laps.
I'd assume it should be, based on the time, just one lap less, rather.
Yes.
It should just be the 1 lap less, but we'll see. And I'm sure if we call it wrong, everyone's going to be nice in the comments, right?
You know how you can tell this is a slightly older game as the crowd, it's very 2D, but they are packed and they are ready here in South City, London Borough for our first consolation race of the Spring 2026 ERL season. A long hold of the lights, and 4th place goes nowhere as we fire ourselves off down to turn 1. Good start from Lapkowski crucially, but now here comes Vera already all over the rear end as he pops to the outside. Tries to now put the pressure on as they sweep through the left-hander. He's put himself around. He's tangled up one more as well. And there's chaos once more at turn 2.
Yeah, Kanija went back. He was the one that went back on the race start. And then, yeah, Vera there going right the way backwards. It's allowed Cody Nikolakowski to have a great gap to those behind. We've got Barretto trying to get back past on Canejo, who squeezed him straight into the barrier. Oh my goodness, that was a little bit too aggressive there, and unfortunately Canejo is going to drop right the way down. I say unfortunately, kind of did that to himself.
Racecraft, it's what you expect in these last chance races. The minutes tick away at the top of your screen. Already 60 seconds off the clock. Lapkowski has a 1 second advantage at the front. Remember, anything outside the top 2, it doesn't really matter. And so it's Owls Esports on the charge now in 3rd and trying to close a 0.6 of a second deficit up to David Salado.
And that's the thing. It's 1st and 2nd. It's the important bit. That's what we're looking for here in this fight. But yeah, between Lapkowski, I think Lapkowski's, I would say from this point of what we were seeing in the pace from the previous race, yes, David Salado was actually pretty quick in the previous race. I think Cody Nikolakowski is gone, should be relatively checked out from this field. So it is that fight then for 2nd place. Again, 1st and 2nd are the only 2 teams that will be working their way through. Porter trying to keep Canejo at bay. He's now going to look back to the inside of the Absolute Motorsport Aslith car as they get heavily onto the brakes. Thankfully, that was actually a solid bit of racing. And Canejo is able to find his way through before they get into the right hand at turn 3, then back into 4, which goes once again to the right-hand side. Then we go back left through 5 and then through the chicane at 6, which is where Canejo had that incident earlier on in the race with Barretto.
Here comes Manuel Vera after starting on the outside of the front row, trying to fight his way back forward to bring his team a bit closer to one of those 2 positions that move forward, or at the very least grab some championship points, because those that don't advance score championship points based on how they finish. Not quite at that tight hairpin. Manuel Vera, that's the best look we've seen so far today.
Gave it. I mean, look, Vera's out of position. Obviously, had qualified quite well in this race, then got spun round, was spun round at turn 2. Turn 2's caused dramas in race 1, 2, and 3 so far this evening. So,
yep,
we'll be keeping an eye on that, shall we? Which race will be able to get through it cleanly? Hopefully the final, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. As Vera does manage to get his way past Porter, and there was a big slide as well from Conejo up ahead, side by side, just going on to the start-finish straight, but it is a look back to the outside from Porter, who will keep it to the outside, maybe going through T1. Again, everything goes back single files, not really too much space for a car to go, even if it is one of these Radix P6s.
The 92 esports team sat in second with David Salada, must be loving how things are going. Yes, losing ground to Latkovsky, but still holding back the Owls Esports, the black, yellow, and blue 03. And then another 2.5 seconds back to Alejandro Barreto in some no man's land relative to Conejo, Vera, and Porter, who lights up the rear end as he puts the power down. And now watches Manuel Vera through the long sequence of extending left-handers will go to the outside, once more down to the hairpin. He thinks better of it, but he really wants the passing opportunity. He's forced the mistake from Conejo, and he's up to 5th.
Just made a big mess of that, did Conejo. Just a little bit too deep on the brakes. We've seen that a couple of times, less so from those front runners. But Vera was easily through. Unfortunately, I do think for Vera, that will probably be it. I don't believe there will be another position really to get. 3 seconds up to Barreto. I just don't think that's necessarily catchable in 5 minutes and 20 seconds. Nor, I think, will that top those top gaps, because Latkovsky's got 3.2 seconds back to Salada, and that gap's now 1.5 back to Roig. So I don't necessarily think we're going to see any major switches in that top group.
You know what we need to have these gaps close up a little bit? We almost need Formula E attack mode.
Oh yeah. You see that you're barking up the right tree here, mate. You are barking up the right tree. I rate it. I think it's hilarious and very entertaining. I'm not even saying that because I get the chance to chat about it.
No, in the commentary booth, you've got 2 people that, we're okay with making rules that encourage racing.
Yeah.
As much as that has been a hot button topic in 2026. Right.
Look, I will say, as a motorsport enthusiast, this is going slight podcast mode, but just it's fine. You brought it up now, and you've unleashed the dragon. I don't agree with it in Formula 1. I do not think it should have any place in Formula 1. But Formula E is banter, so let's go with it.
Yeah, I agree. The pinnacle of motorsports, I would rather not see lift and coast through some of the scariest complexes in motorsport, as unfortunately Porter has found himself into the wall and may not be the only one struggling right there. There was a lockup of the right front, the outside tire from David Salada as he went down through that final corner. There comes that black, yellow, and blue 03 for Albert Roig as he tries to close up, but separation building with 3.5 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a scary moment there. You don't want to be locking up too many times going there because you're so fast going into 12. And that front right lockup could do an awful lot of damage. I mean, even then, you just keep catching it there. You'll be going straight on, and not too far away from the apex of the corner is a wall, and you'll be hitting it pretty quick if that were the case. Perfect drive at the moment coming in from Cody Nikola Latkovsky. As again, Porter has a bit of a moment. That is clearly a moment coming up and over the crest out of 1. So much damage on that car. It's not going to be easy to drive at all. I would suspect in the next 3 minutes and 7 seconds, it may well be backwards once more. Here's a replay as to what happened a bit earlier on in the race with him.
He is limping the car around. That's what he is doing. So we'd expect plenty more moments. It was down at the hairpin where things started. He comes over the crest of the hill, slams the left side into the wall, and then from there, I get the sneaking suspicion he's had plenty of moments in this race.
Yeah, it's not been a fun one, unfortunately, for Porter. But again, we must remind ourselves that yes, we do have some of the top esports drivers in the world of sim racing. We do have regular Joes out there as well, just just people trying to have a bit of fun, just people trying to get on the broadcast a little bit. So maybe that is a position for them, who knows? But it's been a tough race. Let's go with that. 92 Esports, we're on board with Solana right now. This is how you're supposed to do turn 1. Oh, it's so fast.
Nice and smooth as he tips the car in, but then as soon as he gets to the apex and asks for a little bit from the rear, that's when things start to go a bit more interesting. Watching the hands at work, this is a great camera angle, just to, especially through this first and second sector where it is so tight and twisty, see what these drivers are having to do through the lap.
Yeah, an awful lot of wheel movement. There you go, trying to feed it in slowly, but the rear end doesn't want to grip too much to the road, so you are sliding, but you've got to kind of roll with it. Dropping down the hill, what's it going to be like down here into this right-hander? Turns the steering wheel in, bit of understeer there. As the pressure has come completely off the rear end for Solana as Roig's been around, and unfortunately Porter is also out of the race. Roig's dropped down to 6th.
I don't think it really impacts much for the top two. The task still fairly simple. The gap between Alejandro Barreto and David Solana inside of the cut line, as we'll head on to what I suspect will be the final lap of the race. Bit of a wiggle there. That was a very wild moment for Barreto in the Samantha Town Racing 121. And now the drag race back down to turn 1. The bright orange and red machine for Vera is going to be left on the outside, but we've seen this work before.
That was a very large moment. It is indeed final lap of the race. Cody Nikolakowski is in position. The battle for third continues as they remain very close to each other. And Barreto is just trying to hang on against Manuel Vera, but goes for a spin, asks too much for the rear end of the car, and does a complete 180. Has to stick it in reverse before going again. That was a great fight. Vera left everything on the table with the outside. Big risk. And Barreto is the one that paid the price for it. Fantastic racing.
End of the day for Samantha Town Racing, alongside of 3 other teams, all as 0 Point Racing. It was looking good at one point. Latkovsky drifts that car down through at turn 10, but it is redemption for them. They will live to fight in the quarterfinals, but they cannot afford any more slip-ups from here. And remembering, of course, that we've seen so much chaos on our opening laps for 0 Point Racing. It will be full focus for qualifying when we go racing in a few moments' time. But out of the final corner, power down and foot to the floor for Cody Nikolai Latkovsky as 0 Point Racing winner in the second chance race here in Live for Speed.
Yeah, very good for them to progress through into the quarterfinals. A well-deserved and dominant performance from Cody Nikolai Latkovsky. Of course, we'll see the other drivers across the line. Slade's done enough in the number 92 Esports car, and Manuel Vera, the first teams that we will see no more of this evening.
Unfortunate. Slightly smaller field in this year's Esports Racing League than we've had in previous years, which does mean if there are any teams who are watching and maybe interested in joining for future editions, just head on to social media to learn more and to potentially be a part of future ERL seasons. But Lewis, our first batch of teams eliminated, getting ready for some quarter-final action.
Yeah, now the serious knockout begins. There is no more second chance races. We will have half the field wiped out in the next one, and then the race after, you guessed it, half the field will get knocked out in the semi-finals before we have that one last race of the evening. This is how everything unfolded. Cody Nikolakowski, I think, was pretty perfect. Big shame, though, for Manuel Vera down at turn 2, which, again, bit.
3 races, 3 moments at that corner. So clearly, the opening race drama with some screen freezing and stuff, it wasn't just that. It's a corner with plenty of consequence. And once more, it's not just the rear tires putting too much power down, it was actually the front making contact that unsettled the car. And not only one of the Radix P6s involved, and then from there, there's another look at what happened.
I wonder if he clipped the barrier as well a little bit on the left-hand side, but there was definite contact front to rear, Vera to Latkovsky. And unfortunately, Vera was the one paying the price for it and will pay the price for the team as well. This was the squeeze into the barrier. I mean, I know I was maybe a little bit harsh there on the squeeze into the barrier, but I do think, I mean, you shouldn't be going really side by side for that section of the track. It's so narrow. It's filthy how narrow it is through there. This is Vera's recovery try, battling up to the rear end of the Absolute Motorsport Aslith car, and would eventually find his way through down here at 12.
And crucially, all this fighting outside of the top two means our race control team doesn't have to do much to confirm at least the two that do move forward. Manuel Vera would try into the opening complex, didn't quite work out, and then set it up down at that tight braking zone at turn 10. Beautifully executed, put the pressure on, all as, unfortunately, Alessandro Porta had a couple of slip-ups in the Absolute Motorsport Aslith machine.
And eventually would unfortunately retire from the race. This was some more battling late on in the as Vera was again continuing this recovery, was getting to the outside. There would unfortunately be a spin on the inside, which would allow Vera to come through into third, but unfortunately that recovery only to third position. 0 point though. They were on point, weren't they?
Or as someone said in chat, 0 point cooking, although still some work to do to cook into a final spot with the quarterfinals up next in our slightly different format here in the 2026 spring season of the ERL. Glad you're joining us for the first round of the championship. The next round of the season is going to take us on to Gran Turismo 7, and that's in about 3 weeks' time on the 7th of May.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Again, I can't remember why, but I definitely had some work or something on that day last. Yeah, no, I'm a busy man. Might have actually been Formula E, hilariously. But no, I think after missing it last season, I was really disappointed that I didn't get to commentate on it. Did miss it. This season, I'm here. I'm going to be alongside you in the booth. Obviously, moving on to a Thursday night this time, and I think it's going to be an exciting one this season. I think it is going to be with such few rounds before our season finale on the last garage. It means more, doesn't it?
And because I think the car is going to be a bit better for racing, that should be fun as well. 21st of May will be on iRacing, so that's a short gap between those two rounds, but not sure how many drivers will end up racing on both, with quite a few Gran Turismo specialists on our entry list. And last but not least, in the regular season on the 11th of June, so effectively a month after round 2, we finish up the regular season on RaceRoom. That all builds us up to another 1 month gap before the in-person final, in Cologne. Lewis and myself allegedly will both be there. Our top 4 teams fighting for the championship belts on the last garage.
Look, we'll see if maybe Florian might sack us by that point after hearing yet more golf chat. Yeah, but we'll keep the golf chat coming. Don't you worry. One thing though, going into the quarterfinals, obviously we've just had the second chance race where it has just been the single driver teams. We are back out to all 3 drivers representing each of their teams, and that will be the same case all the way through the rest of the evening. Each time we see these cars racing, there should be 3 of each team. Of course, there are some certain scenarios like Williams where there is only the 2.
You want to start talking about team golf? I see how it is.
Scramble tournament.
Qualifying will get underway momentarily, and once more, only the top 2 drivers in the team score points in the upcoming race. And we know that qualifying is going to be relatively important, but also I would think, Lewis, trying to find track positioning out there, because 12 teams, 3 drivers a team. There's not all teams with 3 drivers, but there's going to be pushing 30 cars on track for both qualifying and the race.
It's going to be busy out there, and finding that clean bit of air again. We've said before, this circuit's only 90 seconds long, really. Finding that clean bit of space when you've got 30 cars taking on, obviously, in this quarterfinal will be tremendously difficult. It will get easier when we move into the semi-finals to find that bit of space. In the final, you shouldn't really have any problem with it at all, just 9 cars circulating. But this, getting your clean lap in, without things like this, for example, TC Esports there, getting a little bit of traffic as they're working their way round, and I'm sure won't be too pleased with it. It was the 92 Esports car that was directly ahead. You don't want that in quali.
No, and again with increased traffic, do you maybe do something different? Which, you know, we mentioned that these tires, are very temperature dependent, but do you maybe wait until the end of the session, let everyone go out first, finish up their runs, and keep yourself out of their way?
It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because I'd like to lean towards yes, but at the same time, I want to be the first out. I want to be right down. I want to be out as quick as possible and try and lead the train round. We are now in that qualifying session. A few knots coming out, and again, you'll see the red light there on the pit lane. They cannot pass. Not pass. They cannot go until that light hits green. That was a cheeky little pass, but to be fair, the Vitality car wasn't sat all the way up on the white line, so I think that's all fair.
Race out of pit lane for qualifying. Remember, we talked about it in second chance qualifying, but clean air is important. Does look as though, for the most part, we've got everybody trying to storm out. At least one bails back to the pit lane and does not like the sight in front of him.
Yeah, and I don't blame that at all. If I'm starting further back, if I'm one of the ones further back in this train, I'm going to give everyone a 30-second head start, and then I'll head out, thanks. Like, I've got no interest in trying to follow this train round. The light's about to go green. It is a bit of a wait. Race control, probably midway through eating the Mackies. They're not quite ready to release the field onto the circuit.
Maybe just double checking. They're all on the fixed setup right now before we get underway. Remember, we've got, after this, the semi-final and then just the final to come. So we're into the final 3 races, Lewis, of the opening event of the season. Yeah,
apologies, by the way. Qualifying was 7 minutes. I misread it as 8. I can't do maths. That is as simple as it is, but it is 7 minutes, the qualifying session. So in 20 seconds, then the logo. I'm just sorry for the accusation that race control are eating the Mackies, but if they've got a double quarter pounder going spare in there, chuck it my way. 10 seconds then before the qualifying session starts. That's why a lot of the drivers don't want to be out straight away, because they're sat there, cars potentially overheating, tyres will be very cold at this point. It'll be one of the EMM cars that will be leading us off of pit lane as the light goes green. And here we go. Session underway. 7 minutes to get that lap in. Not very long indeed.
But again, remember, it was still very slow roll. I don't think that's going to be the most popular, as playing some games off the pit lane right now, building up the temperature into tires and getting separation. Yeah, you can see there, almost caused a crash because the BS car was ready to go. I think that was Marco Pajic, and Vitality Machine didn't quite get the memo. And hit the light. I mean, that should be a fine.
That's
fine from race control.
Disrespect to the poor light. What's it done? It's gone now. Rest in peace, that light.
Yoinked out by an invisible marshal.
Yeah. That's bad etiquette. 3 point. There it is. It's back. It's fine. We're all good.
No, the invisible marshal's run back out.
That's honestly, that's a 5-point penalty in my book. We are seeing a couple of teams, like I say, remaining there in pit lane, including one of the Yes Motorsports cars. Wonder if that might have been, who was potentially trying to run their own strategy in the race in this qualifying session.
I really think there is merit to it with the number of cars that we will have on track. Remember, we had, a maximum of 9 teams in the heat, so at most it would have been 27 cars, but I think it was probably closer to the 24-ish sort of number. And at least 1 or 2 teams per heat being down a driver for this opening round of the season. I've seen a couple of drivers saying they're experiencing some technical issues, but remember, 1 lap qualifying, so if you're dealing with the technical issues through the fast turn 1, not going to be the easiest for Magic Mike.
And it is going to be Schmiedel the first lap that we see in this session. Obviously, nicely through turn 1. Hard to kind of get a good reference as to where it was, but pulled it up to the apex brilliantly at 2. Right-hander 3, get nice and close to the wall, run it out to the wall there on the left-hand side. Beautifully done. Back over the tram tracks into 4. A little bit too much understeer there in the car of Schmiedel. Once again, a little bit away from the apex there at 5, but that's fine because you bring it back in through 6, slot the eye of the needle. Not a problem there. Through the left-hander as they go through 7, through 8 again. Continuing to rise just that little bit up before we drop down the hill into turn 9. Heavy onto the brakes, find that braking point. Just as you get over to the left-hand side through the kink, you want to get as far over to the left as possible before that right-hander, that climb out of it, as we continue that through 9 and 10, now through the left-handers of 11, and then up and on to the dual carriageway. We'll skip over from one side of the dual carriageway straight over to the other before dropping down off of the slip road and then onto the roundabout, turn 12, into the left-hander they go. Bit of lap traffic as well from one of the TC Esports cars. Not easy for Mikael Schmidl to navigate on his one and only lap. Is it going to be good enough for pole position? Obviously, it's going to be the first time we have in this session, but that was a little bit tricky for him to navigate.
What's the reaction? Has he been fighting with some of those issues? He's not happy, he's not disappointed. But Isaac Price was so quick in qualifying too. Let's wait to see where the benchmark will be. Already Yuri Toman's half a second off of the lap time that Schmidl's laid down. I'm not quite sure what the time is, but clearly it's not bad.
Yeah, well, it's just been beaten though by Chinchik by 1,000th of a second. Is that incredible from Marcel Chinchik? You're absolutely right. I didn't quite see what the time was from Mikael Schmidl, but I don't think it was that slow at all. Aidan Walsingham's gone into third position as well and all of that. So for Schmidl, things are looking solid. We've got the Isaac Price driven, Isaac Price, a visceral esports driven car of Isaac Price here, of course. Came off that victory in Heat 2. Was very mature in his interview, knowing that there is a lot of speed out there on this circuit. Dom Plyer now sneaks his way onto pole position by 9,000ths of a second.
We're talking slim margins. There is a reason why these one-lap qualifying sessions are so fun. Now a bit more time though as Joni Katia to the top and Isaac Price bails to pit lane. Now, I did wonder, Isaac had returned to pit lane at one point in the session. I wonder if he had run out of laps effectively, but it's not going to matter. There's still a visceral car out on top.
Yeah, indeed. That'll be really important for his teammate Joni Katla to find his way onto the pole, but that is hugely dramatic. Certainly not what they needed. Now, what does the 54 do? Yeah, who was so fast, it now returns his way into pit lane. Has he already set his lap time? No.
I don't see him on the board.
No,
My
me neither.
Goodness.
That's hugely dramatic.
So I go back to the speculation. Was he another one? Isaac Price has a best lap of 1:55. Yeah, I think by coming to pit lane, they've accidentally potentially triggered something and will start down the tail end of the grid. We'll find out though as Price is still out on track and navigating his way around.
Yeah, I'm the only one there is I'm like, what, if they've returned to pit lane, does that then not technically count as their lap and then they can go out again and set it? If that is the case, I completely disagree because that's not one lap. I
agree, but this is where, you know, my technical brain is trying to look at the pattern and figure out what's happened. Because yeah, Gabor's got a time of a 1:57 on the board, so there is a lap time registered, and by the letter of the law, you're allowed one timed attempt as far as I've understood it. But Price is still hustling. I mean, look how much he's working that car as he heads towards the final sector.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, we'll discuss that into pieces a little bit later on. Clearly was trying to get some heat into the tyres and whatnot, but either way, like you say, for the visceral team, the important bit is that Joni Katla is right the way up there at the top of the session. This is back with Kalkov at the moment, the Referox car, 28th position at present. Well, I say at present, it's not going to get better than that because there is a lap time on there.
I'm sending a message to our race control team to try and figure things out. Unfortunately, this is, like we mentioned earlier, Lewis and myself's first time actually commentating on Live for Speed, so we're a little bit uncertain as to some of the nuances that may be on iRacing, at least for me, maybe R Factor 2 a bit more for Lewis, that, you know, we'd be right on top of. But yeah, this is going to be a world of pain for Isaac Price if with 13 seconds left on the clock, he's going to start all the way down in 32nd.
Yeah, that would certainly not please him at all. But I mean, look, getting that lap wrong on the opening lap, that's the important bit. A little bit of a barrier bash there as well on the left-hand side for Isaac Price, who's still pushing
by the way,
as
Lewis,
hard as he can.
So I'm going to cut in. I've just been told by race control they have a separate tracker do race control as to timed attempts versus trips down pit lane. So even though the session is ticked down to 0, this is going to count for Price, and it will for the rest of the drivers that headed to pit lane.
But then is that not a one lap? That's not one lap then, is it? Because surely, I know say one time lap, but then if I'm on a mediocre lap, I'm obviously bailing to pit lane.
I've got many opinions. Yes.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. That's fine. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Isaac Price here. Then he's in contention for pole. We'll go with that.
Out of the final quarter, it was a scruffy lap on occasion as well. But as much as Jeremy Clarkson used to say, you know, slow sometimes looks. Fast looks slow. That's not always true in these cars where you're wringing everything out of them. And there we go. It's Visceral 1-2, but reverse the order from heat number 2.
Yeah, that's a great lap time from Isaac Price, but obviously it won't be done yet then, because I'm sure there might be another couple on the laps. Where is Giet? Did he go back out? Yes, he did. There he was across the line, I believe. There he goes. Rather, Yes Motorsports was on pole position and took victory earlier on in the day. Could he steal this away from the Visceral duo? Across the line. Goes only to 8th. Not good enough for the Yes Motorsports car.
But look how close he is. He's only 1 1/3 tenth of a second away from pole position. The times, Lewis, it's half a second between the top 20. Yeah,
incredibly close. And that's what we like. You know, we like seeing it that tight. We like seeing it that difficult for them to navigate. That was a tough session, I'm sure, for a lot of our drivers. But for Visceral, once again, they are proving themselves to potentially be a very, very strong competitor this season, at least here on LFS.
He's a big bike fan, apparently, but putting the leg power to a different sort of use today, as he now just waits to get gridded up. And I think this is crucial because, again, teammate alongside allows you to control the pace. But up to turn 2, Lewis, how are they going to run? Because remember, Aiden Walshingham got a rocket of a start in heat number 2 and instantly was fighting at the front.
Look, I think that turn 2 drama, that is going to be the big talking point here. It's getting through turn 2 cleanly. Yes, of course, you've got to nail your race start, which has been very clearly for a few of our drivers pretty difficult out there. But nailing that run through turn 2 and avoiding the, let's be pretty real here, the impending doom. It is on its way. There is going to be some form of drama there, surely. And I'd be very uncomfortable to be a part of the middle of it.
Well, fortunately, we've got a good view from the global broadcast booths that we sit in right now as the drivers head back out for a couple of moments before we'll get ourselves underway. Remember, all racing fixed setups, only a couple of things that can be tweaked and of relatively minor consequence to the actual speed of the car. There's a lot more importance put on these drivers actually being able to maximize their own performance behind the wheel, to adapt their driving style across the platforms and across the car and track combinations that we're racing at this season.
They're about to just head out into this warm-up session as I'm trying to think about some numbers as to where people are qualified and who's looking good. Of course, this is the brutal thing here, Arjuna. We lose half the grid in this. You know, there's no second chance. There's no nothing. We just lose him. 50% of the people taking part this evening will be gone. When it comes to 2 driver teams, because there were a couple of 2 driver teams in the earlier races, there is only one left, and that is Williams F1 Team Gaming, Dominic Blyer and Nikodem Vishnevsky. The rest of the squads all have 3 drivers to play with, but remember, only their best 2 results count, but that 3rd driver can add some penalty points to the teams.
Which does mean for Williams, it's not such a disadvantage, right? Because everyone else is only scoring with the 2 best. It just means if one of those drivers has an issue, they don't have the 3rd ace in the hole, right, to play and bring them back into proceedings. Also, as we just get ready for the lights procedures, remind me, Lewis, is this Nikodem Vishnevsky rejoining the Williams F1 Team Gaming crew after a couple of years away?
Yeah, obviously has raced around the sim racing world, has raced for of course G2 after leaving Williams, has raced for BS competition, of course, fairly recently. Honestly, that actually completely slipped because it feels like so natural, doesn't it? Vishnevsky, Williams. Yeah.
You want to know the worst part about this, Lewis? You want to know when he left Williams?
23.
No, 2024, which was only 2 years ago.
Was it? It was the end of 23 because it was the start of 24 where he joined.
Yeah, technically.
G2. Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Well, yeah, but that's why it feels so. I mean, to be fair, 24 was still a little while ago.
2 years ago. That's crazy.
I had to ID someone at work the other day because obviously, wasn't sure if they were 18 or not, and they were buying alcohol. So I was like, right, what's the age on you? And it was the date of birth 2008. And I was like, that's not right. No, that's not right. It was right. Either way, lights are on, ready to go. Quarter-final, and we are ready to go racing once again here. We'll lose half the teams. We've got 6 of them. And we are racing once again. Great start from the Visceral duo. Not so good from the second row. Dominic Blyer and Marcel Chinchik will be feeling a fair amount of pressure. That was an excellent start from those Visceral cars at the front of the field. And look at that from Dominic Blyer going instantly defensive from Marcel Chinchik, who looks to the outside of turn 2. Is there going to be drama this time? By the top 10 or so managed to work their way through. And there we go.
Lewis, I am pretty sure that Gabo Guerre, our winner in Heat 1, was pushed into the wall out of Turn 1. It wasn't just the seeming oil that was left on the track on Row 2 that slowed down Dominic Blyer and Marcel Chinchik. So much chaos a little bit further down. Guerre already down to 10th position as we slip out through the chicane. Chinchik and Blyer, through all of that, haven't actually lost any positions.
Yeah, the one on the side, by the way, was one of the 0-point cars. Not sure as to which one it was, but it certainly was one of those 0-point cars a little bit further down the field. This is looking back from Dom Blyer and seeing the pressure of Marcel Chinchik, someone who he's fought time and time again the last 2 or 3 years of sim racing. This is where everything's kicking off. You've got another one of those 0-point cars around. We had Kwiatkowski, who was also around for Thomas Eng sim racing. That was very messy.
Well, 0-point Racing survived the second chance race. Doesn't look like they're going to survive any further than the quarterfinal. What an opening lap for Isaac Price, though, and who now is in front of his teammate Yoni Katia. Meanwhile, Christoph Korek is the third of the Visceral Esports black and red machines, is in front of, you guessed it, another black and red Radix P6, but a bit of contact with Bruno Kalef for Referox is up to turn 1. They will fly. Bruno on the outside. We've seen this work before.
God, I've never been so glad the Team Redline aren't in this competition. I'd be absolutely lost with more. I know it's not black and red, but still, what's happened to Chinchik? Yeah, you're absolutely right.
He was parked on the inside, Lewis, at turn 1, and I just saw a flash of yellow, and I was like, what was that?
So there is some big dramas coming in here, and there'll be a lot of big teams leaving as we run on board with Bruno Kalef, who was a little bit away from the apex there, as they now flick through the chicane at 6. Kalef Referox trying to keep a lot of pressure on the Visceral car, but Visceral with first and second, honestly, I wouldn't say you can drop out of it, but in a really, really good position is Christoph Korekis. Can just kind of go along with the fight as it is, not really worry too much about gaining 2 more. There is Gier, who's trying to work some progress back up the field after a poor qualifying by his standard, and a poor start as well.
But you know what he can do now, that is Korekis. He can take points away from other teams, and if you want to try and help eliminate some of the stronger competition, that's what his role can be now, just as long as he stays out of the long arm of the control of our stewarding team. Nicholas Hauben just outside of the top 15 right now as he tries to work forward. It's not going well for Team Nitro as it stands right now, but I'm going to have to try and do some quick math and figure out who's right on that bubble of the top 6 as we run.
Yeah, I'm trying to do some math myself, but let's be honest, at this point it is super tough to figure out where everyone is and which teams are in good spot. Obviously, we know Visceral are. This is what happened then to Chinchik, we believe. So he was closing up to the rear end of the Williams of Dom Blyer. Was looking to the inside going through turn 1. Was fully committed. Clipped the curb. Oh, that was a big one. Dom Blyer is lucky to get away with it as much as he did. I'm sure there is a fair amount of damage on the car because that was a big hit. But yeah, just clipped that curb on the inside and just went round.
Wow. I've got to say, the damage model on Live for Speed is pretty good. It's not letting our drivers get away with much. Chinchik up the inside, down at the tight turn 10. It's not going to work on David Sobrero, who sweeps the speed around the outside and holds on to 13th spot. He's the best place of the black and gold Thibaut Courtois machines. Not easy for them. Jack Keithley, the next best, all the way down in 17th.
Yeah, indeed. The very rough estimate at the moment, by the way, is Visceral, EMM, BS Competition, Yes Motorsports, Vitality, and Williams F1 Team Gaming. It is quite hard to pick apart who's in there, but those are the ones that seem at the moment as they are in position to move through. Although even then, instantly Felix van Delft says that's incorrect. So I'm sure he's trying to run some numbers. It is a tough one to follow as we see Jack Keithley here, 17th position. Battling with one of the nitros of Nicholas Albon, who's looking once again to the outside. Not positions we were expecting these two to be fighting in at this point of this race.
This is wild. This is such a change in the order that I think some of us are kind of expecting.
Whoa!
Nicholas Albon tags Jack Keithley, and oh my goodness, we've got multiple rolls and another one of the Thibaut Courtois. Keithley's on his lid, and unfortunately Coque Lopez mixed up as well.
Going to be hard to save that one. Nice. Unfortunately for the team, not so nice. As Cabrera up in 13th position. I mean, they were below the cut line anyway, but they certainly will be now. 6 minutes and 20 seconds left to go. That was a big shame for the team to have Lopez and Keithley round at the same point. This is back to the front, 1.6 seconds. Isaac Price is clear, looking for back-to-back victories. One in heat number 2 a little bit earlier on, looking to try and clear the quarterfinals as well as we go back to Marco Pajic and the fight with him and Lagakis.
Exit off the corner for Marco. It's quite interesting. I'm trying to watch how they're running alongside, because look at how they are going back and forth. They are trying to side draft off one another as they head in towards turn 1, and around goes the rear end. Lagukas, bye-bye.
Yeah, that is going to be a huge gain for a lot of these drivers up the order, which is a shame because, yes, Motorsports, they're ringers. They still kind of are. Pierre and Azar, who are in 8th and 9th, those are both the Yes Motorsports cars. Those two are in fine enough position. Mikko Schmidl, Darren McCormack, those two are in absolutely fine position. Aidan Walsing and Marco Pajic, those two as well for BS Competition, absolutely fine. Dominic Blyer and Nikodem Vishnevsky, I think those two should be fine in 3rd and 14th position. They should be scoring that 17 points. They're pretty much on the cut. So those Visceral, and then basically it's a hunt up and down the field to find the other team, because that is not so easy to find now that Vitality have dropped down the order.
No, and I'm going to leave that aside for the time being and just focus on the just under 5 minutes that we have remaining. A big lock up there on the left front for Marcel Chinchik as he tries to recover back up through the field, sliding down at the bottom of the hill as they now rise up onto the motorway. And this is where we've seen the outside attack really set things up down to turn number 1. And so David Sobrero, it's not about making the move on Caracas here, although he's right alongside as they work off the corner and make some more contact with one another.
Not to take anything away from the great fighting there, but technically speaking, that's not a motorway. It's just a dual carriageway, but that's fine. He just felt the need to. Well, it's definitely not a motorway. As Sobrero will have the pass down there from Caracas, who comes straight back through. Schmidl's dropping back. What's happened to the EMM car? What has happened to the EMM? There's been contact between himself and one of the BS competitions of Marco Pajic. What has happened there for EMM and BS competition? Surely side-by-side run through T1 and some contact to go with it. There's some more contact here as we head over the tram tracks.
And Chinchik pointed in the wrong direction. I tell you what, opening rounds of ERL seasons and a misfortune for RAG/Vitality. Yes, it's a new name, but you can't change that story from the previous season. Toman down in 20th, Chinchik in 21st. It's just that kind of day. Thibaut Casabon, the best place of those bright yellow Vitality Radix P6s, and he's in 11th.
Yeah, and like I say, unfortunately, it's just not going to go well for Vitality for the second consecutive start to a season, where we expect them to be one of those teams that maybe at least get through, maybe get through into our season finale, at least get up there. But they certainly are not as we head onto the dual carriageway. The dual carriageway, not the motorway, it's dual carriageway. As Sobrero has kind of been gifted up into 8th position. I know you're trying to trust your track maps, but I'm British, bruv.
Hey, you go and fight with the team who put the track map together, who's also our team that's helping do the broadcast. Yeah. So I'm not fighting with them as David Sobrero feeds the slingshot to Christoph Caracas. I mean, that is almost like he was off the throttle and lifting off partially there, just how quickly they swept through. But the bumps on this track are no joke, and up to turn 2, Sobrero had a half hole to peak up, and he makes some contact with Caracas, who is officially now in 8th.
Oh, and just touching the barrier as well for Caracas. Again, I'm loving this circuit. I like the lumps and bumps. I like the undulation. I like the throwing it around. Absolutely fantastic. The only part that's definitely not accurate to British roads is there's no massive potholes every 15 meters. But at least, you know, that for racing, probably not so good. So at least we've skipped that one. Caracas doing a great job there. Great fight, great battling through turn 1 and 2. It's so fast through that section of the track, and they did a great job to try and hang on. Get down the hill, bit of lag, but I'm sure we're all right.
Whoa!
What has happened here? What has happened to Caracas?
He's been caught out.
Cars.
Yeah, I think they've all been caught out, Lewis. It's just gone wrong at the worst time, technically, for them. And now Caracas has slipped behind of Thibaut Casabon. How does that change proceedings for everyone who is not Visceral? Remember, they're still running 1 and 4.
No, they're not. Yeah.
1 and 4, not 1 and 2.
Look, I'm not going to say nothing, but I get a feeling that might need to be pulled back to the end of the previous lap, because that technical issue clearly wasn't just for us. That was for a lot of the drivers. That is going to throw a lot of the results up into the air, and very big question. I wouldn't be surprised if that is a cheeky RF red flag, something like that. I'm not race control. They'll be keeping up to date with their current positions, but I'm sure a lot of drivers and teams will feel that they've had an absolute mega run through that, or they've been very unlucky.
Yeah, I think you are correct. I get the sneaking suspicion that we might get the quarterfinal re-racked and sent out once again, and so this might be, well, we'll find out. But there's so much damage on these cars as well. That is crazy.
I don't think necessarily it needs to be re-racked. I think it can be pulled from 2 laps to go, but then obviously it's a very short race, so maybe
exactly.
it will be. Who knows? Who knows? Again, that is for race control to deal with. I'm sure they'll let this race unfold in its entirety and then make the decision post-race as to how they're going to play things. Either way, Isaac Price has said, God, it's quite easy, this, isn't it? 11 seconds. Strong field, apparently, is what we're being told. For Isaac Price, clearly not.
Yeah. Oh, what's now? Gear's upside down. Also in the wrong direction that's Bruno Calef. And, unfortunate contact. And there's nowhere Gear can go. He's spinning the rear wheels, trying to turn, but he needs a helping hand. Someone needs to flip him back up like a turtle.
Isaac Price will cross the line, though, and regardless of all the drama, will take victory. A fantastic victory again, a second one in a row. After winning Heat 2, that is a great drive in the quarterfinals and a great race for Visceral. Obviously, some big question marks up in the air. But not to Visceral's pace, regardless of any of the dramas. First and third for them across the line. Yoni Kattler and Isaac Price are absolutely rapid. And to be fair, Caracas is not particularly slow either.
No, he is not. Qualifying, I think, has just put him out of position, right? And maybe that's something to keep in mind going into the final. Will he be the driver towards the tail of the field? Look at the battle scars of the final machines crossing the line. Remember, we've still got about 10 or so left to go. If this is the damage that they've got, how much worse is it going to be behind?
Yeah, look, if this was a real race, there'd be some pretty big repair bills. I remember Townsville a few years ago. I say a few years ago. This might have been 10 years ago. It might have been 2016, actually, now that I think about it. I remember they had some races in supercars at Townsville, and every single car except 2 had damage on it after the race, which was a hilarious fact. And they did publish a number on what the average repair bill was, and it was not low.
Oh, yeah, no, I've got a friend who's just started working with one of the manufacturers in sports car racing. When there's a big crash, I just text him, so how much have you just made? Let's catch up. Let's catch up once again with Isaac Price, this time standing by with myself. We won't make him have to deal with Lewis once again, but Isaac, that's 2 race wins. Yes, there was a bit more drama maybe behind you in that quarterfinal, but you're looking very comfortable here on Live for Speed.
Yeah, I mean, the way that race panned out, I mean, it could easily have gone horribly wrong at any moment. There's obviously a lot of game lag and stuff, which obviously kind of puts a sour taste in the mouth for that win. But I mean, I was going to win the race anyway. We were comfortably 1-2 before all that stuff really started kicking off. And yeah, it's just a bit unfortunate. I've been playing LFS since like 2010, 2009. I've never seen anything like this before. And then when there's an esports event, this happens. It's very typical, unfortunately. But yeah, hopefully it'll be better in the other races. The first race I did today was fine. So yeah, just have to hope it clears whatever the issue is, clears itself up.
Let's talk about the sim itself, because all that experience, Lewis and myself were kind of wondering, how similar is this to iRacing, to RaceRoom, to jump between? Because we were wondering, is this more of the oddball round compared to Gran Turismo in this ERL campaign?
I think driving-wise, it's quite intuitive. I mean, if it wasn't intuitive, you wouldn't have, or like if it wasn't quite similar in terms of like the skills you need, you wouldn't have seen so many good LFS drivers be able to make that transition. Because obviously, your boss Hugo used to be an LFS driver, and yeah, lots of very good drivers like Joni Tormler in F1 been there for a decade, and he started out in LFS, and me and Nils, and the list could go on forever. So in terms of how close it is similar in the sense like the skills you need, but how you apply those skills is just slightly different. I feel like it's quite intuitive, but the tracks themselves are so different to every other sim, because these days everyone uses real tracks, whereas LFS mostly uses virtual tracks. I think that's the thing that's the hardest to deal with. At least that's how I would imagine it. But obviously, for me, I've known LFS since I was a kid. I've been racing on it half my life, so for me, that's not the issue.
I do like what you say, though, about the tracks, because that's what also makes our Final Four so unique, the fact that it's a car and track combo that you're not going to have had too much practice. Let's quickly talk about the team, though, because Visceral seemingly firing on all cylinders to start this season. How's things going behind the scenes for you and the group?
Yeah, I'm really happy with how things are going. Obviously, it's easy to be happy when the results are going your way, but I mean, just in general, the vibe we've got going on is really good. I mean, I've worked with Joni Katia, since, I think I was teammates with him in my first ever sim racing team back in like 2009, but we've been apart for a while and then come back together again later on in life. And yeah, we've always got on very well. And yeah, I think we've got good chemistry there, and I was teammates with Christy as well before in other sims, or in a different time, I should say. So yeah, it's just a really good atmosphere, and yeah, it's going really well at the moment.
Well, Isaac, we'll let you go and catch up with the team after the, I'm sure, aftermath settles from that quarterfinal race. Best of luck for the semi-final and maybe final later tonight.
Thank you.
Isaac Price, wily veteran, and half of his sim racing career, or half of his life, I should say, spent here in Live for Speed. Relatively long wait for the lights, and I do wonder if that caught a few drivers out, Lewis, as we finally got the race underway.
One set of drivers that didn't catch out was Visceral. Absolutely perfect with that race start. It was the second row were very sluggish to it, but I mean, for the top two, it was brilliant. Katia was not able to get through on prize, but I'm pretty sure they were kind of communicating that between them, just run through the opening corner and don't worry about it. This was the drama that happened in the background that saw the car flipped up onto the side and up and over. That was one of the 0-point cars. There's also another one that's flipped over in all of that. Very, very messy indeed through turn 2 once again. This was the big spin coming in from Marcel Chinchik. Would get to the inside here of Blyer before they drop down into the underpass. Clips this curb on the left-hand side. Whee! Right into the side of him. Easily done. The fact that he was able to continue on, by the way, in 14th position after this was mental, but obviously it didn't go completely perfectly from that.
Yeah, and I guess the question really is how many of the grid were impacted by the many issues that seemingly we had. This was before the damage started to pile up. We were able to get plenty of side-by-side running, even 2x2, out through turns 1 and even turn 2, which has been the site of so much drama as the Vitality teammates tried to work together. But a track in which we did know it was walls on either side that would limit the racing, and unfortunately TC Esports got taken out.
Yeah, indeed. That was a big flip, not only for Jack Keithley, but Coco Lopez as well. Also involved in the middle of all of that. Yes, Motorsports having their battle with BS Competition, and another spin indeed on the inside. This was later on in the race, up inside the top 10. And that was indeed a very big slide indeed. See, there was many more going through turn 1, because I'm sure we added quite a few to the list of cars going sideways through there. And yes, indeed, for Schmiedel, there was a bit of a lag, I think, and then another couple of moments for the drivers and teams.
And then bang, that was another one of our moments. That I don't think was related to any technical issues. That was just racing, and the concertina at a corner, which we did say was not maybe the best of the passing opportunities, Lewis, all as Isaac Price continued to pull away up front.
It was a brilliant drive again from Isaac Price for the second time this evening. A dominating performance, and I think he called it absolutely right in the interview. Yes, it was a shame that the victory, maybe you could say, is tainted a little bit by the technical issue, but I don't actually think that you can, because he was winning the race anyway, right? He didn't put a foot wrong, and I don't think that would have changed had there not been he was winning that race regardless. I think honestly, from corner 2, maybe corner 3 or 4, if you're feeling generous, that race was Isaac Price's. It just was. He was driving perfectly, he was driving brilliantly, did not put foot wrong, had the comfort of having his teammate Yoni Katir behind. So that was pretty set and sorted. It was everything behind where it was absolutely mental, and that's why Race Control will be reviewing more than one protest, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I think, when it comes to Isaac, maybe the surprise was that he didn't qualify on pole position, right? And so keep that in mind for our 2 remaining qualifying sessions coming up. If Visceral can move forward, if we will find Isaac Price back on top in the short but brief, pressure-filled qualifying situation. I have just been given confirmation that the results will be taken as is from that quarterfinal. So we'll just wait for everything to be totted up, Lewis, and we'll have something official. But while we wait, it's one more opportunity for us to look forward to the rest of this Esports Racing League season. And specifically, we talked about the sims and the platforms that we're going to go racing on. Let's talk about the cars very quickly as well, because I think that's where slight change from last year. Not as many open-wheel, downforce-driven machines. Next time on GT7, we're racing a Nissan Silvia Spec R Aero S15 Touring Car GR4. That's its full and proper title.
We'll be calling it the Silvia or the S15, I'm sure. Great car, always loved it. From my time playing, Need for Speed and whatnot back in the day. It is a car, not my favourite car from those. I'm just going to say I'm a 240 SX kind of guy. Absolutely cracking car. But look, I think it's a great car. Something very different that a lot of people haven't raced. Also, I think what we were doing last season might have been a little bit too quick and a bit too mental. So nice to slow that one down. I think much like what we have here on LFS, I think the track is once again, as Isaac Price very rightly pointed out, yes. I think that is almost going to be the more oddity in all of that.
And so the IGTL team will come in to help us run that event and the broadcast. They'll help us pick the list of teams that will go through that pick ban phase, and I would very much advocate, if they're listening, Florent, part of the team there, let's include only the fictional tracks, and let's make sure it's as Gran Turismo-esque as we can make it. Yeah. After that, off to iRacing, where it is only going to be real tracks. There's no question about that. But the Hyundai Elantra NTCR, we love some front-wheel drive racing. Touring cars, there's some new regulation changes in the real world, which I'm very excited about. But Lewis, it's a great car for wheel-to-wheel racing.
Yeah, it really is, especially for a little bit of door banging. I've done my fair share of that. The one in the intro that's shown is a bit of Knock Hill. Wouldn't say no to any of that. I mean, look, I've got a list of circuits that I'd want to see on there, mostly from my own racing experience of certain venues. Knock Hill would be on it. Long Beach, I don't care about race control. I'm here for the memes, mate. Road Atlanta, chuck that one in there. These circuits work so well in touring cars. And hey, why not? Daytona Oval. Let's just have banter. No, don't do that. Please don't do that. It'd be horrible. I've
got a genuine suggestion here. St. Petersburg.
Okay. St. Pete would be a great shout. I think those cars would work so good. I mean, I quite like those cars on street tracks. They do work really quite well on street circuits. So Long Beach, Belle Isle, chuck those in there along with St. Pete. I've not even driven St. Pete yet.
After that, you mentioned we're heading into RaceRoom with the Alfa Romeo, the 155 DTM car from 1995, and a game that Moritz Lohner once described to me as having the best netcode in all of sim racing. Another great car for wheel-to-wheel competition.
Yeah, exactly, and that is going to be crazy. Especially, they've got a great selection of circuits on there. Obviously, it will be most likely a real one that we go to. There's a couple of fictional circuits on there, but most of them are real. Some circuits that you don't really get elsewhere in sim racing, like you go to like the Norris Ring, a couple of circuits, Lausch Ring, Bilsterberg. Quite a lot of them are German focused, obviously courtesy of the DTM side of it. A few great Italian tracks on there, obviously a couple of British ones. We've got Brands Hatch, why not? But look, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. That is going to be compared to the iRacing round, which is touring cars, are going to be a little bit of door banging, I'm sure. The RaceRoom one will be a lot of door banging. I can tell you that from right now, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I think there'll be a little bit of leaning going on each other through corners, and I think it's going to be really exciting. I had the chance to commentate with a good friend of ours, another golfer, definitely worse than you and me though, Cameron Roger. We had the chance of covering the RaceRoom Super Touring Championship last year, which Tomas Ribeiro, who is taking part tonight in the 0 Point car, he ended up winning that one. That was a lot of fun, and yes, it was a lot of door banging.
And then last but not least, we return to the Vickers 8, which only 4 teams, let's not forget, have got experience of. The 4 teams that raced in our finals at the Sim Formula Europe in January: Team Nitro, Rafa ERA, Virtus Pro, and the Williams F1 Team Gaming. I've just been told that our team at Race Controls just worked through the remaining incidents in that quarterfinal. I see some penalty points here and there, so we're just waiting for final confirmation, and then we'll know, Lewis, which 6 teams are moving forward to the semi-finals. Yeah,
where if the quarterfinals are anything to go by, we're going to see some conkers played at turn 2. But it's all going to come down to that qualifying session, isn't it? That's the important bit there. The qualifying session for the quarterfinals was incredibly close. I suspect it'll be very much the same here in the semi-finals. Hundredths of a second deciding rows. And if you're a tenth or 2 off, you're going to be quite a few rows back, I think.
So we'll wait for that final result to come to us before we talk about which teams may or may not have missed out, because I was going to start thinking about some of the teams that we speculate may have missed out on a semi-final appearance, but if it's only a quarterfinal for Vitality, that's still one step further than they went in the first round of our last ERL season. Lewis, here's a look actually right on cue. We got a couple of those penalty points, and they've just snuck in. So Visceral, Williams F1 Team Gaming, BS Plus Competition alongside of EMM, the Referox Esports Team, and Vitality Sim Racing forward to the semi-finals.
Really important for Vitality to have really got back after it and charged, despite that spin from Marcel Chinchik when he was going side by side through the opening corner. Big hitters taking out from this. Team Nitro, obviously our runners-up from last season, so that's a big shame from them. 0 Point did look good, but of course had a few dramas in that race. It means that both of our teams that went through in the second chance race are out, because it's them along with 92. TC Sports are a big one, and of course, I've been dancing around it. The really big one that's taken out there, Yes Motorsport. That is massive. They were, in the hands of Gear, they potentially even had potentially the fastest outright pace, maybe. I mean, Isaac Price was definitely highlighting them. He'll be very happy to see them on the sidelines in the semis.
And I think that's one of the teams really impacted by the drama in that quarterfinal, Lewis. And so it's not worst case scenario for them by any means. There's still a long way to go in this season, but like we've said, it is a shorter season than our previous ERL campaign. Just 4 regular season rounds. We've stripped one of the simulators off the calendar, just down to 4 from 5. And returning, as we've said, to the last garage to close out the season. We're on track once more. Not sure if there's a qualifying or if we're just getting the final stages of practice complete, indeed confirmation of that. But I think one chance now for these drivers to kind of reset, Lewis. I'm sure there was a lot of emotion after that previous race and how it ended. These drivers kind of let that get to them as they get ready for qualifying.
Yeah, for every team that will be disappointed with how the last race went, someone will be happy with it, and vice versa indeed. That's just sometimes how the racing goes, isn't it? That is just how it is. Well, keep our fingers crossed that everything runs fine here through the semis and the finals, but only 2 more races this evening to see who's going to be our first round winner. I mean, I've got to say it right now, and I'm only saying it because I don't believe in the commentator's curse because I think it's a load of rubbish. You know me and my opinion on that one. At a bare minimum, Visceral are the absolute favourites for this one. So qualifying session begins here. We've got about 1:50 before they head out onto the track. So it's all the fight to be the first person out. And I think it might be the same as it was in the previous. It'll be Mikael Schmiedl again.
Yep. Get ready to go for the penultimate qualifying session of the event. Oh, Lewis, you will be so happy about this, but at Sebring, your favorite phrases that you've added to your vocabulary recently, the ante-penultimate lap of the race. Yeah. Oh, John Hindorf broke it out.
Did he?
He did, and I was like, oh.
Where did he get that from?
Pretty sure Ford Mustang, and he must have been listening to you because no one else would want to say that, I feel.
I was going to say, the fact that I've never heard that saying until Piers Pryor said it to me in the comments box in Monza in GB3, and I was like, sold. I'm taking that. I hate that. I hate it so much. I'm going to use it.
Yes,
but yes,
and now you dropped it into my skull. Damn it.
Yeah, but you know there's one for third to last, right?
Yeah, don't you say it. Don't you say it. We'll kick you out of the booth right now.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Oh, sorry, one for, I guess it would be fourth to last, wouldn't it? Because the second to last is penultimate, third to last is ante-penultimate, and the fourth to last... I'll let you figure it out. It's fine. You can Google it.
I'm not going to figure it out. I'm not going to Google it either.
No. Well, I mean, the thing is, I get the feeling that I think that you could go far enough to potentially have one for the 8th to last of something, and so then we have a name.
Cover the full race.
We have a name for each of the laps of the race. You know what I mean? Mental. What a language. 10 seconds before they head out. I actually quite like this, by the way. I like this is something from my old RFAX days. Obviously, it was LFS way before it. But the qualifying session begins before the session begins, if you know what I mean. Like, you go out and you're in the pit lane a little bit and you get that mental build up.
So yes, but at the same time, I'm not such a fan of them all being spat out onto track together because of the chance of chaos that it brings. And we are at the point now... True, but we are at the point now that, you know, instead of 12 teams and a maximum of 3 drivers per team, that's a maximum of 36 cars on the track, Lewis. Now we're down to 18. So at this point, there should be enough space around the 4 odd kilometers of the South City long circuit for our teams to get this sorted between them.
Yeah, there'll be more than enough space. No, I think I like it because it's a bit more of that simulated reality. That's why I think that obviously not doing it for this because it would be mental to do it on all the races that we do it. But I still maintain for big esports races and stuff, things that I like seeing. I like seeing that queue at the end of pit lane. I like seeing formation laps and whatnot. I think those missing in sim racing quite a lot. And I mean formation laps for standing starts, not just rolling starts. Let's be clear. I like things like I like that capturing of real world racing. It kind of like it does help your mentality a little. Well, some people it makes it worse, but you know, I think it just helps you get into that right frame of mind for a given race.
All right, so we're taking from our real world and we're adding to the sim world. I see. I tell you what, should we add podium ceremonies after each race? The answer to that's please no, Lewis. Please don't make me talk over any more podium ceremonies.
I really do want to hear you go, and now it's time for the champagne! I want you to do that on broadcast, please.
I do kind of, unfortunately. It's the least favorite thing that I have to do on one of the series that I cover. Fast through turn 1 for Bruno Khalif in the Referox Esports 136. That was nice and tidy, although I don't know if that's just our camera position. It's jerking around quite a bit as he works through this first sector.
Certainly looked like, even through that, though, is that there might have been a fair amount of understeer through 4. Now they go through 6, flick it back over to the right-hand side, back through the long left-handers as they go through the top of the hill at 7 and 8, and then drop back down into 9. I mean, it looks, from what we're seeing, it looks maybe a little bit, like I say, a little bit not enough for the front end rather than what we've seen on previous. Just struggling to find the grip around the circuit as we remain on board with Kalefit.
back onto the motorway. I'm going to say that just to irritate you now.
It's not, though. It's just not a motorway.
I bet it irritates you, so I'm going to say it.
There's no hard shoulder for starters. There's also double red lines for never park. Like, you're not allowed to park there at all. Obviously not a motorway.
That braking zone is so interesting, though, because it does look as though some of our drivers have been touching the brakes before they get to the bottom of the exit, effectively, and flatten out, and so they're braking with some of their weight still pushed down onto the nose as the car squats down. Michael Schmiedel fastest provisionally at a 1:29.879.
Wow. That is incredible. That's the fastest lap of the day. We've seen everyone in the 30s and the low 30s. From Schmiedel to do a 29.8. Wow, he has thrown his EMM car around. That's absolutely incredible. What can Isaac Price do? Can he get amongst Michael Schmiedel? He goes into third behind even Aidan Walsingham, who Walsingham himself has put together a pretty impressive lap time there.
That is, but from Magic Michael Schmiedel, and that is his official nickname, by the way, for the rest of this ERL season. That is a blinder. We see a couple of the drivers return to pit lane. I'm not a huge fan of that. Once you've headed out onto track, you've started a timed attempt. That should be the one that counts, but it means that we'll have 3 minutes to wait. Yoni Katia can't beat Magic Mike's time. Second the best for him.
Yeah, Don Blyer up to 6th position. I mean, I don't think that time's being beaten from Schmiedel. I don't see where it's coming from. We've got Darren McCormack here. We did see Jone Simoncic across the line, only 13th position. So for the EMM car of Schmiedel, he's going to need some assistance here, and Darren McCormack is going to be the one to do it. He heads his way into this first sector. By the way, I can prove, I'm sure I can prove that it's not a motorway. There's road signs everywhere around it, and it's only green. There is no blue. And I'm pretty sure even the one on the roundabout which says to go back up the slip road to head onto it, I'm pretty sure it's an A road, so it's definitely a dual carriageway.
You're welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I have really set him off.
You have really triggered me. This is insane.
I have achieved my goal. Darren McCormack, now a driver that we have often described as being adaptable. A lot of people will associate him with, of course, success in Assetto Corsa Competizione, but we've seen the speed on Rennsport as well, race on iRacing and Le Mans Ultimate, and including Gran Turismo 7 on a controller in the ERL season last year. However, I don't think he's anywhere close to Michael Schmiedel. I wonder if he's going to even crack the top 7 or so. It's a very tight bunching between them.
It's going to be a mid to low 30, surely. I mean, that 29.8 is absolutely incredible and unbeatable, and it is in that mid to low 1 minute 30, like we said, 1 minute 30.356. So whilst his teammate is right up there, and you can see the frustration for McCormack, he knows how to go quick regardless of where it is, but that lap didn't quite hook it up. We see Kalkoff across the line. This is to begin a lap for the Referox team.
So he's had a couple of opportunities. As much as, you know, the intention of our qualifying sessions traditionally is you get one lap to bin it or win it effectively in this session. Several bites at the apple, as it were, through the double right-handers. Want to now switch up to the right side to slingshot in towards the chicane, but it's sluggish. That was not the quickest change of direction there.
I think was slightly offline. After going over the tram tracks, it just kind of pushed that front off of the apex of T4, and then you're offline through 5, through 6, and you kind of can't really get it back until you come through 7. This is through 9. Again, got to be careful not to get a little bit too understeery there as they go through 10, because again, that speed is lost again and again. That is a big hit onto the barrier as they go back up onto the overpass, onto the dual carriageway, and then back down. So you even got a road number there. Definitely start with an A. I'm still so angry that that's classified as a motorway or track map. NDR, I'm so sorry, but yeah, no.
He is so angry. He will be the final time across the line. We've got 17 on the board, and only Valentin Kalkoff right now, not within around a second of what Magic Mike was able to do. Remember, only one team with 2 drivers, and while he improves in time, it's not in position.
Yeah, well, that is not so great for the Referox team. It's really good, though, for EMM. That is a brilliant lap time from this man here, Magic Mike. I mean, that was a magic lap, wasn't it? That was absolutely incredible. Definitely the fastest lap of the day. But the problem for him, doesn't have the teammates around him. It is 3 teams that will be going through from this. So there's plenty of time for McCormack and Simičić to work their way through. And McCormack's definitely got the speed to work his way through.
You know what they need to do right now? Get the wonderful AI-generated walkout music that they had at Sim Formula Europe out, because my goodness, that was a bop. That was a vibe, as the kids would say.
Yeah, indeed. I've just been sent, thank you once again to Felix Van Delft, who's sending me the numbers. The numbers that it would be after qualifying, the teams that will be going through. Now, we know obviously turn 2 is going to have a huge deciding factor as to whether this is going to be true or not, even the race start, and obviously the laps that follow it. Visceral, BS Competition, and EMM would be the teams at present that would be moving through into the final. Williams, Vitality, and Referox would be the ones to miss out. Over an 8-lap race, I do suspect that might well change quite a lot.
You know, the thing is, though, that this is one of those races where throw the grid positions almost out the window, because at turn 2, we've seen the drama time and time again, and so you can't really think like that. It's especially if you're up front, the picture looks quite nice and you suddenly start driving conservative, and that's not what you need to do in what will be another one of our 12-minute races. So same length as the heats that we've seen, and I think we will be in for a fun one. I think given the combination that we have, it's a good opportunity for our drivers to now battle wheel to wheel throughout a lap in which there are passing opportunities if you force the issue. We saw that in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, but the problem is by forcing that issue, like we saw down into T1, if you're forcing the issue down there, it's so easy for a spin to come a cropper. And look, I don't know which way this race is going to go. I'm very curious. I'm very excited. I don't know which of the 3 teams are going through into the final, and I wouldn't even genuinely be able to pick one team that I would look at and be like, bam, them, yes, maybe Visceral, but knowing how these races can unfold, I just wouldn't be super comfortable by saying, bam, they're definitely going through.
Just waiting for the light sequence to come up. We have 3 different teams inside of the front 5, so that's a good sign, at least for 2 teams, that they have some strength in numbers. As for the penultimate time today, we are go on Live for Speed. It's a good jump from Magic Mikael Schmiedel. Joni Katia immediately tries to cover off Aiden Walshingham as we sweep under the bridge towards turn 2. They fan out 3 wide as they jump onto the brakes. There's some aggression further back, just outside of the top 10, but Schmiedel holds on. Walshingham's on the inside now of Joni Katia as they head up to the double right-hander. Meanwhile, Isaac Price sits there and waits. He wants to try and help his teammate out if he can. Walshingham's going to get squeezed as they now head to the left-hander.
Finally, a clean start for our grid. Fantastic. Now I've said it, we're going to have an absolute whopper through the chicane. It's going to be very close indeed. There's plenty of side-by-side space just about given. One of the Vitalities was very close, and there was a bit of contact further back. It was Kazimon on Sentiment, and those 2 will have that bit of contact and drop back. Darren McCormack is out of the race. He was in 17th position, but is now out of it. I believe he's popped back onto our timing screens, but he's returned to pit lane. Jone Simičić in 13th then, and Mikael Schmiedel in first. Simičić needs to make some progress here.
8-lap race, top of your screen as we rise back on towards the dual carriageway. Pops to the inside momentarily does Marcel Chinchik as we fly through the final corner. The sweeping left-hander, puff of the right front from Dominic Blyer as he snatches the brake but gets through safely. It's a bit more contact behind. Toman's going to run toward the tail end of the field, and now more argy-bargy as we run up to the line.
Yeah, Vitality will be up and down, and that's not so good for Yuri Toman. It's not so good for Vitality in totality. We've got Marcel Chinchik in 6th position and Thibaut Kazimon in 12th. They won't be scoring great from there. This is back up the order just a touch as they fight for the back end of the top 10. There was a couple of looks coming in and a bit of defence coming in as Jone Simičić has found his way through into 9th position with a big look down the inside though from Kalef. as he went full send on Simičić, who now drags it to 3 wide as the BS competition car's in the mix as well. It's so close over the tram tracks, and somehow Simičić comes through.
Well, great racing. I mean, that is wonderful stuff, and Simičić knows that he's trying to back up Schmiedl at the front of the field and bring the ERA team up into the finals. Remember, 3 teams will make it through to the finals in our shift of format for this spring season. One of the Vitality cars bullied out of the way as Thibaut Casabon, who's now trying to shuffle his way back to the inside alongside of a couple of the RaceRoom machines who are in danger right now of going out.
Yeah, things not going so well for Vitality. Big hit on the barrier there from Kalkov as we rise up the slip road and back onto the dual carriageway. Single file they are, but I'm sure we'll have a couple of looks there. BS competition. Leboutelet's got Kalef down the inside as they get into 12. And it is the full send from the RaceRoom car, which is just going to squeeze its way through a bit of contact, and somehow they keep pointing in the right direction. I'm sure that throttle pedal was barely lifted in that contact, Argina.
That was worrying as we cross the line once more now with Yuri Toman trying to sweep past Thomas Leboutelet, who lost out as a result of that seemingly technically induced contact. Leaders starting to separate themselves out though, as Mikkel Schmiedl with 0.6 of a second over Yoni Katia, Aiden Walshingham and Isaac Price, the top 4 as they started this race. Damage on the left front for Thomas Leboutelet as he now sits back behind Yuri Toman and soars at the wheel.
So I think at the moment, by my very quick math, with Yoni Katia and Isaac Price in 2nd and 4th, obviously they would be ones to go through. Aiden Walshingham in 3rd and Marko Pejic in 7th, 10 points for BS competition. Schmiedl and Simičić both on 10 points as well. It should be, before penalty points and whatnot, those would be the 3 teams by my current estimations that will be moving through into the final. We are 2 and a bit laps into this race. That is going to change a lot, I'm sure.
We haven't seen too much wheel-to-wheel from those up front. Is that a sign that they are running with margins that make it difficult to be side-by-side now that they have figured things out a bit more practice through the course of our running? Or are they saving the best for last? Are we going to be in for a great final race of the night? Which, you know, Lewis, we really did enjoy the traditional best of 3 ERL finals where 2 teams would go up against each other, trying to win 2 of those 3 races. But what this format does, it brings it a bit more in line with what we'll see on Gran Turismo 7 next time around. It also means another team has a chance of scoring big points in the main events as battling just outside of the top 15.
Also, look, we shouldn't be ever afraid of changing up the format that little bit. Stagnation is the enemy, and sometimes trying new things can lead to new things and exciting things. I'm excited to see it. I say something slightly different. Obviously, we've seen it a couple of times last season, and I'm all for it. Look, why not? And like I say, it means it's then slightly more consistent across the board. Gran Turismo, this is the thing, by using all the different platforms, suddenly you learn some things which don't work across the board. And so you have to think a little bit more outside the box to make it work in such. And we have found that pathway, and now it should be relatively consistent across the board, the format from simulator to simulator. Aiden Walshingham doesn't technically need to do anything, but I don't think a position would be a bad thing right now. With Pejic in 7th, Nikodem Vishnevsky directly behind will know that he needs to get past to try and get Williams into that final. They are a couple of points behind. At the moment, 3 points behind are Williams. They kind of need to make some progress. So I don't think that Pejic is particularly safe there, even though the gap's 1.2.
Oh, I'd agree with you. Remember that Aiden Walshingham yet to win a race this season. Yeah, I had to say that sentence just because won so many races last season. Bit of a wiggle as he works out of turn 2 and puts the power down. Walls either side. I love a street circuit for removing the question about track limits. Question that maybe we'll find ourselves talking about when we go racing at some of the other facilities available on other platforms. Bruno Kalef defends as they shuffle out towards the chicane. This is for 11th position, and behind him, Vitality and Yuri Toman. Brand new colors for them. At least they made it to the semi-finals this time around.
It's something. Obviously, we have seen them in Vitality colours elsewhere in sim racing. Obviously, over in Rennsport R1 for a couple of years now, but that is run by the R8G outfit, and so yeah, they were running in R8G in this last season. Great to see them in Vitality. If you're more focused on sim racing than your general esports, Vitality are one of the biggest names in esports across the board when you start looking into other categories of esports competition. So your likes of CSGO and such. CSGO, that's old school. Sorry, CS2.
You
Let
are.
me correct myself. Sorry.
You are not old school if you say CSGO. CS
No,
1.6, come on.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, sorry, yeah, but CSGO doesn't exist anymore is what I'm trying to get at. Or, it's not used anymore, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It
I
has
do.
to be CS2.
I'm picking up what you are putting down. Ooh, Walshingham tries around the outside at 2. He'll run out of space. Tangles up with Yoni Katia. Here comes Isaac Price.
Yeah, got to be a little bit careful there with that squeeze towards the barrier. Katia was giving slightly less than a car width, but it still seemed to work out. Walshingham very quickly out of the throttle pedal with it. Isaac Price getting very close to the rear end of the BS competition car. Please don't make contact. Race control will, for one, not want to look at it. For two, for Visceral, that could be your one ticket pass to, going to watch some of the Europa League matches on the TV rather than taking part in more competition here, because I get the feeling if you make contact from this battle, you're as good as done. Dominic Blyer will understand the pressure that's on his shoulders to try and find his way through in the Williams F1 Team Gaming Kart, because at the moment they're on the outside looking in, although with Nikodem Vishnevsky up to 8th with he needs to get up to Marco Pace, doesn't he? So Nikodem Vishnevsky has been in 8th position. It's Dom Bly that really needs to make some of the progress. If he gets through a few positions here, they could work their way through into the final.
Europa League, oh, that's a fate worse than death itself, having to watch.
Could be the
Europa
Conference League, mate.
They're both pretty bad. They're both one of the stages of hell. I don't think there's any question there. 2 laps to go when we cross the line, now with a new chaser in the hunt for the lead of the race, and the lead going all the way back 7 cars strong. So we've got effectively the metronome ticking away at the front of the field right now, and all 7 of those leading cars running to the tune of Mikkel Schmiedel.
I believe he just disrespects the Europa League. I can tell one of our commentary friends will be very happy with watching it at the moment. Of course, Ewan O'Leary, the dirty northerner, he will be very happy watching Forest. They're 1-0 up at the moment, and it's in the second leg, so it's 2-1 on aggregate. Look, he'll be happy. You've got to give him a shout out, isn't it? But no, it is terrible.
He's got to be happy, at least because he's not as well having to watch as Nottingham Forest on inside of the relegation zone. They're on the verge of the relegation zone. I tell you what, I don't want Ewan to be disappointed, especially because there's a big chance that we get to watch Spurs fans be disappointed at the end of this year, which I know will make your heart and my heart very, very full.
Absolutely. I'm not going to lie. No, that's going on to a different topic, but I was going to say Arsenal could take home no silverware and I'd be absolutely fine with it as long as Spurs get knocked out. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Either way, we've got a lap left to go of this race. Sorry for those that absolutely don't care about football, because we'll keep our eyes focused on this. I did see, by the way, the time when we go racing for our season finale on that weekend. Have you seen what's on?
No.
World Cup final.
Oh, goodness. No way.
Yeah.
We're going to be in Germany together for the World Cup final?
Oh, no, I'm going to get on a plane and get home straight away. I don't want to be near you.
Fair enough. All the fighting outside of the important positions on this final lap. That's why we've let ourselves get a bit distracted. But here comes some of the opportunities. Thomas Lebudele pinched on the inside. Will he be able to hold on? Defends as Abe Santanema looks the long way around.
Yeah. Is really here for Lebutele. It's kind of just stay relatively out of trouble at the moment as we're on the final lap. As far as I'm aware, it's still the same teams that we've been talking about. It's still Visceral Esports with 2nd and 4th. They would be going through. It's still BS Competition with currently running up the order. Obviously, they're running in 3rd position and, of course, 7th. And it'll be Mikkel Schmiedel and Jone Simoncic as well going through for EMM. Those would be the teams, Visceral, BS and EMM, the ones at the moment in position to move through, but this final run can see anything change.
Here comes Walshingham as he pops out of that draft. It it will be a chance to run to... He actually taps on the brakes there. He did not want to go on the outside and forces his way down low. It allows Magic Mikkel Schmiedel to escape with the race win in semi-finals action on Live for Speed. Drag race to the line sees Yoni Katia come out on top over Aiding Walshingham, who will now defend and cover off from Isaac Price. Great fighting on the final lap. Maybe a taste of what we're in for in the finals.
Yeah, some great fighting in there indeed. There's the results there popping up on the left side. And there's the music. It's EMM. We've got their tune back.
Sorry, I'm just enjoying it right now.
Let's just enjoy.
See, the thing that the viewers at home are missing is the sight of Jurne Simoncic dancing to that song as he walked out earlier this year.
It was a quality memory. That the song for the EMM esports team and the walkouts of our season finale at the start of this year, the end of last season, and that was the song that saw them lift the trophy as well. And by trophy, we mean the belts. And there'll be belts that they'll be looking forward to trying to do very much so in a few months' time as well. They're kicking things off this season pretty well. They had a bit of a scare in the heats, but now heading into the final, winning that race, they'll be feeling very, very happy indeed. But, I mean, I think the big talk for that really goes to that qualifying lap. That was mental from Schmiedel.
Still just waiting for any final updates from race control. There's a couple of penalty points that have already been awarded to Bruno Kalef. Wonder if there will be anything else that mixes up the order at the end of our semi-final stage, with now just one final 12 minutes of action separating us from the end of the night.
And again, I'm liking seeing that we're going to have 3 teams in that fight. Don't get me wrong, I like the 1v1. I like that. That was a very different format that's very exciting, but I like the fact that we're going to see 3 teams do battle. Again, it'll be the top 2 drivers from each team scoring those points. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be thrilling, but we'll have to wait a little bit to get to that point. Let's
catch up with Mikkel Schmiedel standing by with Lewis.
Indeed, Magic Mike in the commentary booth. Hello. Right, we've got to talk. Obviously, let's give the plaudits to the race first, then we'll talk about your qualifying lap because that was insane. I mean, a great drive from you. A lot of pressure on your shoulders though through that race. You weren't really allowed to run away with it.
Yeah, the thing is, I think it was in like 2nd or 3rd lap when I had a massive lockup. So after that one, it was just bit of a driving on the safe side because the front left tire needed to recover. Yeah, but other than that, it was like, yeah, we're just managing, and I'm so glad that we are in the actual finals.
We would kind of look at this in qualifying. Going into that qualifying session, we're looking for that pole time. What we've seen throughout the evening so far, that low 1 minute 30 is roughly where the target is. Suddenly, you cross the line. 129.8. Where did that come from? That's incredibly fast.
But in the previous quali sessions, I had quite a lot of issues with the lagging and other stuff. So yeah, that was literally the first quali session that I was actually able to, show the potential of our team. And yeah, I hope that we gonna do it like that in the finals as well.
Obviously, you're coming into the season as the defending champions. It was a great run from you and the team back in Maastricht. Obviously, what feels like ages ago now. Do you feel that weight on your shoulders coming into this, that you are the team to beat in this multi-category discipline, or you kind of just roll with it round by round?
Well, not really. I'm getting quite old to, feel any pressure. I'm in that sort of business since 2008, 2009. So, yeah, would be great to add another title, but it wouldn't be a, end of the world for me if that is not happening, So, yeah, we are just concentrating, race by race, step by step. And, yeah, would be great to win it again, but, yeah, it wouldn't change a thing for me, to be honest.
Well, thank you so much. We'll let you, the Man Mountain, Magic Mike, we'll let you have a little bit of a breather before our final coming up. Definitely into it. Congrats, Michael.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
There we go. Superb performance in that race, Arjuna, once again. And this is how it happened. I will say it was the closest start on all of the races we've had so far. Watch this from the top groups, because all those from the left side of your screen, right side obviously of the circuit, whoop, they go straight into line.
It was exciting, and it's given me hope that the finals are going to be a fun fight on that run down to turns 1 and 2. Magic Mike didn't really have to show us many moves, though, because the fighting was all behind him, really, as Aiden Walshingham tried to displace Yoni Katia, Isaac Price from running up towards the front in the early stages. One of the Williams F1 Team Gaming Radixes was up there in the mix as well, but after those first couple of laps, we set a grenade off in the middle of the pack.
By the way, that camera angle going into T1, that moving, that was mental. Love that. This is what happened to Toman, what saw him sent down the field at the roundabout. And this was a little bit of door-to-door racing as Yone Simic. Watch this, by the way. Whoop! Just somehow slots that gap. That is incredible, by the way.
Just play the music, and that was him dancing his way through.
Right.
2 by 3, they trickled through the chicane as well. You can just about make your way through there, but then pushed out wide. It was not Thibaut Casabon, it was Yuri Toman at that point, I think, that had lost out slightly. Thibaut Casabon got shoved out there, second part of the contact, as they trickled down into the braking zone at turn 10. And once more, just a reminder, all of this was really just for championship points, with those teams knowing they were likely to be eliminated. The order in which they finished in points would end up determining the points they took home after this round was complete.
I mean, I'm not sure how this final is going to unfold, but if we get half the race that we had from this, now don't get me wrong, some of it was a little bit over the line, but that bit from Yone, things like that, I think we're in for a cracking final, and we've got to keep ourselves relatively hopeful. We have seen plenty of elbows out, maybe sometimes a little too much, but side by side there through T1, side by side continuing into turn 2, brilliant.
Again, a sign of the racing that we are expecting. A track as well that we got to give it its plaudits. The ban and pick part of the track selection was a first, and it's ended up centering us on a track that has really delivered plenty of action. That was a moment between Walshingham and Yoni Katia in the final moments of the race, all as slightly further behind on more of the contenders for BS Plus tried to charge around the outside.
Yeah, right. And unfortunately, in this scenario, didn't quite work out for them, but I think they'll realistically look at this and think the race is a huge success. It gets a bit of a drag race up towards the line, I'm sure. This was the one with Walshingham looking to the outside of Katia coming down into turn 2. This is battle for the race lead going down on that final lap. But at this point, Schmieder was well clear. Walshingham was on the inside. Katia went around the outside, and it would be the victory for Schmieder. And the side-by-side for second and third. Nearly Isaac Price was able to sneak his way through, but across the line, not a problem on that one. Meaning that the Visceral, BS Competition and EMM will be the 3 teams we believe, provisionally at least, will go through into that final race.
Yeah, I haven't heard if Race Control have too many more incidents. I've seen 1 penalty point for Yoni Katia, 2 for Thibaut Casabon, so there is some decisions maybe of consequence coming down, maybe not impacting the actual results by any means. 1 final race to go, and then we'll have the 17 championship points paid out for our event winner, and trickling down from there. It's still very early in the season, we can't forget that, Lewis, although it's a shorter season than last time.
Yeah, indeed, and the most important thing across the season, which is proved by a couple of teams last year, the most important thing over the 4 rounds we have is being consistent. Yes, you can win a round, and that's great, but there isn't a massive bonus for winning. Like you say, it's 17 points, then it's 16, 15, 14, 12. Like it goes down in the numbers like by 1 position, right? And we noticed that last season when Coanda were incredibly fast. They won, was it 3 times or was it just twice? And they were in contention for the 3rd one. Or did they win 3? Because they definitely won on LMU. They won on iRacing. Did they win on Rennsport as well? Maybe. I can't remember. It was a long time ago. Either way, they definitely won at least twice. And they didn't move through. Winning's not everything.
Agreed. Coanda
I think it was 3.
Did not win on Rennsport because it was the Williams F1 team gaming that won on Rennsport with Virtus Pro in second. Yes. Here's a look at the semi-final standings. I'm not sure if these are official or if there are more things from race control, but provisionally, even with that one penalty point, it's Visceral, our defending champions, EMM and BS Plus that move through, while unfortunately the road ends tonight for Williams F1 team gaming, Vitality and Referox.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great trio for that final. I don't know which one I'd lean towards. I mean, I'd probably lean towards Visceral a little bit more, but seeing that pace out of Schmiedel, hearing what he was saying in the interview with how he just hadn't had the opportunity to really hook up that lap in the previous qualifying sessions. Darren McCormack obviously didn't get his qualifying session put together. I mean, maybe through some technical, maybe through himself, who knows? But there wasn't a qualifying lap there for him. Definitely do not count out EMM and BS competition. Well, you just never can. Aidan Walsing has been absolutely rapid this evening. All three of those teams have pretty solid justification to say that they are the best team. You know, if they win, that they are the ones that have done it properly and are worthy of it.
So here we go. Just now waiting for qualifying to get underway, Lewis. 3 teams, all with 3 drivers as well. Plenty of room on track in which they'll separate themselves around.
And 3 different colours, 3 different main coloured, primary coloured teams. That's the important bit here, Arjuna. We've got black and red. We've got like the, I don't know what you classify it, you know, like it's like a dark teal.
Yeah, it's not green, is it?
Yeah, it's not. It's like turquoise if it was really toned down. I like it. I think it's a great colour, by the way. And then BS competition, obviously the asymmetrical style. We know that that's what BS competition looked like. So we got 3 different colours, which is great.
Yeah, but you know, I am going to throw BS under the bus slightly. All the same,
3 different
blue.
Teams?
Right, exactly.
You've had it. Why not here? Was right click change color orange too difficult? No, I'm joking. Obviously, it's never that simple.
Well, color overlay may have been fairly simple.
Yeah, come on.
It's neither here nor there. I have sent a message, by the way, to Will Chadwick to ask him what is the official color of the EMM. They aren't Rafa ERA this year anymore. That's also one thing that I'm having to wrap my head around. Same team, just a slightly different team name.
Yeah, I mean, look, if there's one thing that I know it's not brown. So at least there's that. We don't have to bring back Colorgate. I mean, it was brown, but it's fine. We're not going to go back onto that. There certainly are orange stripes on the EMM car. That is for sure. You can see all the wibbly wobbling that everyone's doing. That is to get those tyres into the working window for, once again, the one timed lap. I'll correct myself, that you're allowed to do. Flying lap wouldn't be doing it justice.
Look at the way that they're putting temperature into the tyre as well. That is remarkable. Will Chadwick, by the way, says that is green. He is going to send
what?
He's sending me the hex code and everything. That is a green car, ladies and gentlemen.
And what is the hex code? That is not green. Brother is color blind. Damn, that is not the one there, Chief. Well, we'll take a look on board with the potentially green as well. Who knows? If we're calling that green, we'll call Visceral cars green as well. Through turn 1 and up towards turn 2.
Oh, incredible stuff. Isaac Price, who dances with the wall, which you can run into. It will steal momentum. It won't invalidate your lap time like it might on an iRacing, and so expect maximum aggression. And I think for Isaac Price, he will be disappointed, Lewis, if he cannot hook it all together and get pole position this time. Was not able to make up too much ground in the semi-finals. It was a nicely slingshotted run out of the chicane.
Yeah, nice couple of inches, though, left on the table there for Isaac Price going through that chicane. Could have got a little bit close to the barrier, but I don't think you need to. And those curbs do unsettle the car that a little bit more. Down into 9. Again, tries to keep it as far over to the left-hand side of the track before getting onto the power early. It's looking pretty quick and pretty tasty here from Isaac Price. Definitely going to be a low 30 from this point. Will it be a 29? Does it have to be a 29? I think with Magic Mike out on the track, I think it really has to be a 1 minute 29. Dropping down the slip road into the roundabout. Let's see what Price can do.
Oh, went in hot. He really wanted to try and commit into the corner, but the problem is the tire can't brake in a straight line and turn at 100% in each direction. You've got to have the compromise in releasing the brake pressure and turning that wheel in, but ultimately that one qualifying lap, it's in the books for Price, and it's the second 129 of the night.
8:06. It did look like a cracking lap, I've got to say. In that middle sector, it looked unbelievable. Schmiedel shouldn't be too far behind. Walsingham crosses the line, quarter of a second back. We're looking at Joni Katia. Where is Schmiedel in this list? Where is he going to appear? Has he bailed from his lap, maybe trying to go for another one later on in the session? Marko Pejic goes into second. Schmiedel is back in the pit lane. He'll get a second blow at it. Same with Katia.
Well, you know, at least they're both playing the same game, but I'm just going to come out and say it. I don't like this.
No, completely agree.
You know, you've gone out, you've had effectively 95% of the lap, and you've said, oh, I don't like it, I'm going to head back to pit lane. It's against the spirit of what our one-lap qualifying shootouts are meant to be. Full respect to the 5 drivers that went out there and committed. And Jurne Simoncic and Thomas Labudele, identical lap times, Lewis.
Yeah, that's great for the pair of them. Look, I'm going to say I don't necessarily disagree with it from a driver perspective. Yes, they are using and abusing. They're drivers at the end of the day. They're going to use and abuse. If there is the loophole for them to take advantage of, they will try and take advantage of it. I think it is in those rules that is what they're allowed to do. They'll give it a go. Fair enough. I just don't. I completely agree. It's against the spirit of it. It's we should be doing the one-timed lap. That's and by time I do mean one flying lap. You get one attempt at it. If you batter the barrier, well, that's the whole point. That's a joy of a Super Pole. There's 4 drivers though that will be out in the final minutes of this session: McCormack, Karekis, and then of course Katia and Schmiedel.
So that means 2 EMM and 2 of the Visceral cars. So it's going to be them trying to now match each other. That was committed for a effectively out lap as he now builds back to the line and will start what will have to be his qualifying attempt, because he doesn't have enough time on the clock to come and do this once more. So Magic Mike, show us your moves.
Deep breath here. Drop down the hill through turn 1. Almost completely pinned. Looked absolutely beautiful through there. What's the braking zone like into 2? Maybe just a little bit of pinching there on the front left. Once again out towards the barrier. This is where Isaac Price looked absolutely on it. Going over the tram tracks, right out towards the barrier. Could have given it a little bit close to the barrier there, but far from me to judge. As back over to the right-hand side before flicking into the double left and then through the chicane at 6. Looked a little closer to the barriers than Price was.
Sawing at the wheel, but it's not always a slow thing. It's so hard to actually judge. That's what we're finding now as well, especially when we're talking such fine margins. Just under 2 tenths between Price and Pejic, then another half a tenth back to Aiden Walshingham. There's half a second covering the front 5 as the time stand right now, and here comes Mikkel Schmiedel diving down into the final braking zone of the lap.
It looks decent. I'm not going to lie. It does look pretty decent. Is it decent enough, though, to try and take out that 129.8 from Isaac Price? He'd have to go faster than Isaac Price, obviously. He's got to correct us. Can Katia do anything about our top spot?
Here comes the next driver to the line. I'm not sure what Dara McCormack will have. He's not been the quickest. Christoph Karekis is no better than Thomas Labudele, so he will start no higher than 7th position. Yes, Dara McCormack, he'll be the last to the line. It means that Visceral strike first, as here comes a driver that sat on pole before. Dara McCormack finds the time I didn't think he had. Joni Katia only goes to 4th.
That's a big lap time from Darren McCormack for what this means, by the way. Means it's Visceral on pole, it's EMM in 2nd, it is BS Competition in 3rd, and you can again copy that back. Each of the 3 cars, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd has one of each of the teams. 4th, 5th, 6th has one of each of the teams. 7th, 8th, 9th, one of each of the teams. That's about as good as it gets in the qualifying session, and an incredible lap from Isaac Price.
Didn't get it done in the last of the qualifying sessions, but he did this time around. He did look like he had a smile on his face there, didn't he? He is ready for this race to get underway.
Yeah, and I completely get it. When you've set a lap time like that, I mean, it's that must have felt incredible going through that middle section. It's kind of one of those ones when you go, once you get in through turn 2, when you leave to go up and onto the dual carriageway, once you leave that section, there has got to be that smile on your face, knowing that like that lap was incredible.
And now our field just gets ready to flip that switch from qualifying into race mode. It's not a big flip in the sim racing world compared to in real world motorsports, but there is a different adjustment when you're racing around other cars. And I think the other thing to remember, Lewis, the last start in the semi-finals was the first time that we've seen everyone up front get a pretty even launch off the line, and it was a lot closer through turn 1 than we've ever seen before. The choices that these teams and drivers will be making now, a lot more consequential.
Yeah, again, getting through cleanly has been kind of one of the big things that we've looked at a lot throughout this evening so far. Yes, we had a clean run in the semis. We did not have a clean run in any of the races before it. I suspect there's no excuse for us not to have a clean run in this race, Arjuna, but we'll have to wait and see.
You only need 2 to tango, right? And it could be a war down to turns 1 and 2. Go back to our first race of the night. I think ultimately, though, you know, we've filtered out the field. These are the best, the ones that have adapted to live for speed, also have had lots of experience in the past as well. And maybe no surprise from the team's perspective that they were able to reach this point of the night.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give me a winner. Give me a winner, go for it. We've not got long.
How long can I stall before those lights come up? I think that might be another 20 seconds or so. You know, it's only one race, and that also makes it different. I think Visceral gets it done.
We'll have to wait and see. The first final of the new ERL season here on Live for Speed. Someone we've never raced before in this competition. With our teams separated up and down the grid. One final race to deal with it as we are heading down into the opening corner with Isaac Price leading from pole position as he's done earlier on in the evening. Darren McCormack with a great run from second. We're picking up the slipstream of the Visceral car in his EMM. He looks down the inside trying to go on the attack into turn 2. Defending from those behind. Out wide goes Isaac Price. He's able to hang on. More bumping and barging behind the battle for 4th position as they're all jostling for position as we head towards the tram tracks.
This is where it could get tricky, and indeed into the wall momentarily. The 2 Visceral teammates have to be very careful not to trip over each other. Now Catty in front of Karekis as through the chicane they're finally single filed out with Isaac Price leading the way, Darren McCormack, Marco Page, and then Aidan Walshingham. It could be BS in the best spot right now. We'll have to wait and see.
It is just about, though, Visceral right now with first and 5th rather, Yoni Katia and Isaac Price. They would just have it by 1 position over Marco Page and Aidan Walshingham, who is sitting 3rd and 4th. At the moment, it is 2nd and 7th for EMM. Schmiedel needs to do a little bit more progress, and I do get the feeling for BS competition there might be a little bit to gain here on Darren McCormack as Marco Page is closing in. This is back on board with Schmiedel, who's going to drag his way past Christoph Karekis, but he's on the outside as they drop their way into the roundabout.
Yeah, this is the problem when you qualify a bit further down than maybe you think you should. You have to fight, and it costs you that time. Round the outside, you'll get the power down nicely, but I'll try and side draft off one another. Schmiedel pulls out, builds that gap, avoids the air being disturbed on the side, and now forces Karekis to go the long way around. This is really what the non-Visceral teams are hoping for Schmiedel to get a little bit closer to Yoni Katia and to start mixing things up a little bit more. He will slice his way through and hold the inside into the next corner. And now, crucially, 1 point covering each of our 3 teams on the live points.
Yeah, this is so tight in these points-paying positions, which is exactly what we want as fans of racing for the teams. It is an absolute nail-biter here on LFS, and this is a great way to start the season. Incredibly close between our 3 teams, our new final format. Just the single race for us in action here, and the 9 cars taking to the circuit, all to do battle. And Schmiedel is working his way forward. He's got the speed to find his way forward. Darren McCormack's doing a great job to try and keep up with Isaac Price, but obviously Marko Pajic is knocking right at the door. And how hungry will Pajic be to find his way through here? BS Competition definitely are ready to try and steal this victory away.
He has to. There's no choice here, because if Mikkel Schmidl gets in front of Joni Katia, which displaces Visceral from the top of the point, that actually promotes EMM to the top of the point, because that would be 7 points apiece for EMM and BS Plus. But with the tiebreaker going the way of either penalty points or best race finish, Dara McCormack in second would be able to grab the win for EMM as they try and defend their championship from Sim Formula Europe. So Dara McCormack also now in a very important spot where he's looking over the shoulder as much as he's trying to close Isaac Price down as well.
Also, just so that no one's panicking sat at home, I was just about to say the timer will update in a second. It is not a 55-minute race, it is 12 minutes. As we've had, just because we got to the final doesn't mean we're going to have a ridiculously, well, I mean, it would be a pretty exciting hour-long race, I'm not going to lie. But we're not having an hour-long race. No disrespect to McCormack, this is only based on the pace from the day so far. I do think that Isaac Price in first position, I'm not saying he's unbeatable, but I'm saying he's pretty unbeatable. You know? I think he's in prime position. I think he will slowly build that gap and will break the slipstream and then will potentially run away. I think that position might be relatively settled. It's second on back that is up in the air.
Yes, that's where McCormack looking over the shoulder. So if Marko Pajic gets in front of McCormack, that is still not enough for BS Plus, because Isaac Price plus Joni Katia, that's 6 points. Tiebreaker goes the way of Visceral. So maybe Aiden Walshingham has to be thinking about closing up and making the move as well. Schmidl's dropping off the back of Joni Katia here. Joni's doing exactly what the team needs him to do with closing in on half this race complete.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt him though to be up one more position at least, but yeah, just to kind of guarantee it to take it more into the hands of the team. There's a look to the inside, rather for the outside for Christoph Korekis, who's trying to get past Mikkel Schmid. Oh, sorry, no, it's a battle with Thomas Leboutelet. That'll make way more sense as they go over the tram tracks. So these two battling over 7th and 8th. Their points at the moment for the teams technically will not count. But again, they can build up any penalty points if they're not careful. By the way, if you do take a close look on Darren McCormack's camera, you would be able to see that his top has the word which you would have to put in front of Ante penultimate to get the 4th to last lap.
Oh, you know, I've got how many more times can I call it a motorway in this race? We'll find out.
Here's your op.
The gaps, though, continuing just to settle down. I think Dara McCormack, I did say in qualifying, I wasn't sure where he was going to be. But I think that's because, Lewis, by all rights, this has not been the necessarily standout performance that even Dara would have hoped for himself. He's been tangled up in incidents in the race, yes, but we'll see if he's going to race on all 5 platforms this season. That, of course, would require him to make the Final 4 as well.
But, I mean, I will say, as Leboutelet right up onto the rear end and will fire his way through here, at least using the slipstream side by side through 1. To the outside he's going to go. Huge commitment there for the BS competition driver as he does get past Korekis. He's going to leave it to the inside of turn 2. Once again, they remain side by side, corner after corner, and the advantage goes the way of BS competition over that one. Saying about Darren McCormack, I mean, if there's one thing, as much as, you know, we've been commentating on him now for quite a few years, we do have to keep in mind that he is, compared to your Isaac Prices, your Mikkel Schmidl and stuff, less experienced and younger in the world of sim racing, and in that sense, probably wouldn't ever really have majorly touched LFS if he has at all before this event, right? Probably has done a little bit, you know, here and there, maybe the odd like little event as a bit of banter or whatever, but has definitely not put in like the esports level of practice that, you know, your likes of Isaac Prices, your Mikkel Schmidls, your Hugo Luises, of course, those that put that kind of time in to this platform back in the day. So I would say in that he's had to adapt more to it.
I think that's a fair point. But Lewis, do you want some drama? I hope the answer is yes.
I mean, I'm up for it. What's the points? What's the penalty point situation?
Well, I was race control are investigating contact between Joni Katja and Mikkel Schmiedel. That, I think, explains why Schmiedel has lost so much time, because I don't think it's natural for him to have dropped 2.5 seconds in the space of about an 8-minute race as Thomas Leboudelet on the outside of Christoph Korekis. These two have to be careful. Penalty points is what we're talking about. Could mix up things at the front of the field, but what it would take for Visceral to get removed from the lead there as they get slightly pushed out wide through the first of the double right-handers is a couple of penalty points. And guess what? Confirmation. 2 penalty points for Joni Katja.
Wow. So who's in position now? Is it BS competition with 3rd and 4th? Surely.
It is indeed, because 1 + 5 for Visceral is 6. That's points. Then add the 2 penalty points. That puts them up to 8. Page and Walshingham, 7 points between the two of them, can actually afford to lose 1 spot on track, because the first tiebreaker, Lewis, is penalty points earned in the finals.
Yep, indeed. And Darren McCormack as well in 2nd position. I mean, look, Darren McCormack in 2nd position. Mikkel Schmiedel needs to make some progress. This is a switch between the 2 BS competition cars. That obviously will not affect their points. That's probably more that they're feeling that maybe Aidan Walsingham's a little bit quicker than Marko Pajic right now, so they're going to switch those ones around. Pajic will do the defensive drive from Katja. Mikkel Schmiedel unlikely to get right up to the back end of this to gain some more points. So it's kind of one of those ones. EMM with 2nd and 6th, they're unlikely to gain any more points than what they currently are. I mean, to be fair though, if BS competition lose 1, EMM would win, no? Because then it would be on count back to position. 2nd and 6th for Mikkel Schmiedel would be 8 points. It would then be 3rd and 5th.
Oh yes!
For BS competition. EMM with the higher position in the race on the 2nd count back, which is the highest position. Darren McCormack would be doing enough to win it for EMM. Oh. So you say that. Marko Pajic can absolutely not give this position up to Katja.
Good shout. And in that case, Lewis, it actually is a... If they think Aidan Walshingham is faster here, it's the wrong decision to have swapped them around. It's 2 minutes for Marko Pajic to hold on to the win here. Joni Katja has also already probably been told, right, you've got a couple of penalty points. Last thing he's wanting to do in his mind is add to the damage, because that would make things even more punishing for Visceral. Already, Lewis, as it stands, Visceral have gone from winning this final to scoring 3rd in terms of the points being paid out.
But if Katja gets through, then it would be 1st and 4th plus 2 penalty points, which is 7 points, so they would win. So this is one of those ones where it's like there's so much going on in this, and it's so tricky to figure out. I think you're completely right. Aidan Walsingham, if he is the faster of the 2, should never have gone through there on Marko Pajic. They cannot switch it around again. They've got a lap and a bit to survive. It might be... I think it'll be 1 more lap. It is final lap. There we go. Confirmed at the top. 1 more lap to try and survive here. And at the moment, this is not looking comfortable. It is BS competition who presently are in position to win the opening round.
My goodness. New format in the finals, and it produces some drama straight away. Joni Katja running out of time. Really, if anyone's going to make a move down at turn 10, it could be Joni. He's got some great exits and runs out of the long left-hand sweepers, but outside of that, Lewis, there's only 1 more passing opportunity. He's running out of time.
He is right onto the rear end, though. Aidan Walsinghamam went wide here, a lap ago. He's going to look to the outside, or with the inside here. The outside, though, once they get down the hill. A little bit of contact, a little bit of brushing between the pair of them. This is for the win of the round between these 2 drivers. They're battling at the moment for 4th position. Big slides, and coming through is Visceral. Fantastic move from Joni Katja to move them on to 7 points and potentially giving Visceral the victory.
No, not done though just yet, because there's 1 more chance, and look at the speed that Marko Pajic has. He's almost clear as they get onto the brakes for the final time, but the Visceral car makes the send and holds on to the spot.
Final run then up towards the line. What's the drag race going to do? Isaac Price will cross the line to take victory here in the final race. Darren McCormack will be in 2nd. It'll be 3rd place for Aidan Walsingham. It will be 4th place for Joni Katja. And once you add in those penalty points, it'll be 7 points for the team and should be The opening round victory of this new ERL season for Visceral Esports. Will hold fire from that one for Race Control, but what an epic.
He almost lost the race for them. He may just have won the race for them as well. What great fighting between our teams. And I think now a bit of respect being shown on either side as Yoni Katia and Aiden Walshingham breathe after a barn burner of a race.
Yeah, I mean, look, just once again, we'll go through the maths. It's 2nd and 6th for EMM, so that would be 8 points. Aiden Walsing and Marco Pajic would be on 8 points with 3rd and 5th. And with 1st and 4th, plus the 2 penalty points, unless Race Control have more to add, that would be the victory for Visceral. That was really, I really enjoyed that. It wasn't the level of fighting we had in the semi-finals, but it was great. It was strategic. It was played brilliantly. Yoni Katia very much played his part. Isaac Price, as we said earlier on in the race, was absolutely gone. But that was an absolute cracker. I really enjoyed that. Can't wait to see what we're going to be doing again in the near future.
Now we do have a brief window for any extra things to be lodged with Race Control, but I'm not expecting too many extra things, so I think our math is correct. And we can go ahead and catch up with, well, for the 3rd time tonight, he must be rather bored of coming to talk to us, but can't complain too much. Isaac Price, what a race for you and the Visceral Esports team, provisionally winners on the night here in Live for Speed. How does that sound?
Sounds very good. I won't count my chickens until the hatch, so to speak, with the stewards results, but I have no idea. For me, the race is pretty straightforward. Dara played it didn't do anything too aggressive at the start. I braked nice and late, so it made it hard to dive bomb, and then after that, it was just doing what I've done for years on Live for Speed, just doing my own race, putting my own laps in. And yeah, it's nice when days like that happen, because it doesn't happen very often, so you have to enjoy them when they do.
We saw it from Schmiedel in the semi-final there, an incredible lap from him, putting an 8. You said, oh, you got an 8. I got an 8 as well. Bam. Incredible lap in qualifying once again. Do you kind of feel the pressure on your shoulders throughout this event that it's been as the team leader? Because, I mean, you've shown incredibly. I mean, 3 victories in the race you've done. Are you feeling that, or is it just you are focusing on it as just an entire team thing?
No, for me, I feel like the pressure of being the team leader was actually making me perform better. I'm not doing it just for myself. I'm trying to, lift up the whole team, and not only the team, but also the LFS community. Obviously, we've all been racing each other for years on Live for Speed and fighting each other. And especially during the pandemic, you'd have these kind of hypothetical conversations. How would a race go if the best drivers in sim racing actually played Live for Speed as well against us? And yeah, I hope that I made the Live for Speed community proud tonight.
What a great fight as well. Let's grab Yoni Katia for a quick chat. Yoni, you got the couple of penalty points in that final, but you also made the move that grabbed Visceral back the points lead. Talk us through that race and the fight that you had with BS Plus Competition and Mikkel Schmiedel.
Oh yeah, the start was very hectic. I think we were like 3 wide to turn 1, and I had no idea what was going on, just trying to survive. And apparently I was rear-ended, so I had to fight later on, and then both guys got past anyway. But yeah, somehow I knew the 2 penalty points game, so I knew I had to maybe fight them later on, so I just tried to save my tire. And on my last lap I got so lucky trapped, and I just had to send it.
Do you get a lot of communication with yourself and the team to try and kind of work out, like I say, when those penalty points come in, so you know what you have to do in the race, and then how to play that strategy? And if that is the case, to get a lot of communication, how important is that to strategizing your way through an event like this?
Oh yeah, I just asked a simple question if there's any penalties or reports, and I got the short answer. So after that, I kind of knew I had to do something, possibly, and so did maybe PS. But yeah, it's very vital to have a good engineer in your team to know what you can or need to do. Just like in F1, it's very vital part of the team.
And last but not least, Christoph Korekis, third member of this Visceral Esports lineup. Christoph, I mean, it doesn't get much better to start the season off, but after this, we've got trips to Gran Turismo, RaceRoom, iRacing. Which platforms do you think we'll see you on later on this year, and are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, mainly racing on iRacing. To be fair, it was like 13 years the last time I fired up LFS, and to be fair, it's great to be back with Isaac Price. We've been playing together in like 2012, 2013, sometimes as teammates, sometimes as rivals. So it was refreshing to do something else than iRacing, because I think some of the competitions were really like centered around that one. But I'm really looking forward to doing TCR, because that's been something that I was really a fan of a few years ago. So that will be great to be back at.
Kind of very, very different car track. Obviously, we don't know what the track will be racing out there, but we know the car and we know the sim as well. Couldn't be more different than what we're racing, though, here today. I mean, you've got great teammates in, obviously, in Isaac and Yoni. Have you kind of learnt anything from this, from jumping back into LFS, that maybe you might think, oh, actually, I wonder what that's going to be like if I jump back into iRacing? Could I use that here and there? Is there anything in that kind of vein that you maybe find from trying these and going back to these old simulators that we don't tend to see in sim racing in esports competition anymore?
Yeah, I think where LFS is really shining is the tire model, for sure. Like, it really lets you drive on the edge, on the with the perfect slip angles through the corners, and the other sims just don't really nail this kind of feeling. And I think if you nail it, it can really give you loads of confidence. You can get really close to the walls. You can just bang on, save your tires, and still be quick there. So there is just a charm to LFS in that sense. But yeah, iRacing is really a different ballpark when it comes to like tire management and braking and netcode, especially, I would say. Like, there has been a bit of a flop to LFS during the day, but it's mega when it comes to like car contact and close head-to-head racing, and I think it kind of proved throughout the races today that it is great to have close contact racing with these cars even.
Well, congrats, chaps. A great effort for Visceral Esports, and we'll see the team in a month's time to roll on for round 2 of the Esports Racing League.
Yeah, thanks everyone. See you.
Thanks, guys.
Isaac Price, Yoni Katia, and Christoph Korekis, the Visceral Esports trio, victorious to open the night and the season up. But Lewis, Live for Speed, a sim that was older than some of the drivers in our field tonight. Still some great racing, and now our spring season is well and truly underway. Can't wait for us to get back to Gran Turismo next month.
Look, I've really enjoyed it. It's been great to kind of see LFS. Obviously, it's one of those ones that we've heard so much from all of our drivers, time and time again. Anytime you time this, on all of my time commentating on RF2 back in the day, someone who's done an awful lot of work behind the scenes, Alan Terzic, who has put in an awful lot of work to try and help this event along. He'd always spoke to me about how LFS was this and LFS was that, and we needed LFS, and I was always like, yeah, no, it's really cool. It's old though, isn't it? And it's in that same kind of vein of like anyone who does a lot of rally sims and you go RBR, you really need to try RBR though. RBR. It's that kind of thing, but for circuit racing. It's great to see it. It's great to see a competitive grid out on it. Great to see a load of people enjoying it as well, because most of the drivers that we were talking to definitely had some smiles on their faces.
Well, for our team at VCO, time for us to say goodbye. Lewis McLeod, alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati, and we'll do it all again on Gran Turismo 7 next time around. But for now, it's Visceral Esports, your winners on Live for Speed and the points leaders in the Esports Racing League.